Just be nice to each other. You don't have to worry about any of that. All right, let's get into this story. Mr. Bell, what kind of
Yes,
clued
sir.
you in that what was going on with Sasquatch, and where were you when you first had these experiences?
Well, it started somewhere around 2015, 2009. I had a car accident, a head-on collision, and my back was snapped. So I couldn't sleep at night. So I started staying up late, staying on my deck and walking down the street. One night, I heard something paralleling next to me in the cornfield, step by step. And it wasn't like a deer or anything else. It was just like a step. And it was really kind of spooky, and it spooked me really bad. So that was like 3 o'clock in the morning. That was my really first encounter of something I couldn't see. And then I went back. I rushed back home. I got in the house. I felt safe and went on the deck. And I heard two. I heard a voice out in the field. It was a sound, and I heard an ear corn being pulled down, and it said Ewok. I like, what in the world was that? I'm not a big hunter. My brother's a big hunter. So I went and talked to him about it. He said, man, that was a deer. I said, man, you sure a deer can make that kind of sound? He said, yeah, it can do it. It can do it. So I kind of dismissed it. So it was no big deal. And I went down the first time I actually saw it, I was down in Florida and in Orange County. I guess that's not too far from the Georgia line, maybe like an hour or so away. We were hunting hogs about 2 o'clock in the morning, and that hunt went very strange. My son, who was on his 12-acre lot down in Orange County, and he went and got his pit bull. I guess he used his pit bull to chase the hogs or whatever the case. There was five of us. Three of us went in on the south side of the swamp, and two went on the north side of the swamp, and we started a hunt. Well, about 10 minutes into the walk down the path, I started smelling something. It was a full moon night, and this stink was just drifting through the forest. It was a swamp. And my sensei thought it was a swamp. I said, no, I don't believe it's the swamp, because the swamp don't stink that bad.
What did it smell like?
This is, oh my God, like 30 skunks in a bag together, you know. Meanwhile, the dog is going around us, trying to pick up a scent. And strange thing about it was everybody's flashlight went dead. Nobody had a light. Everything went dead.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was kind of really strange. So we was going through the woods and we kind of arguing back and forth with him. I'm telling him, I said, something stinks out here. I don't know what it was. I mean, something that's putrid is this awful smell. So we're walking along, and I guess about 30 minutes into the hunt, um, owls started hooting and dogs started barking in a trailer park. I guess it was off behind there somewhere. And there was this loud bang, pow, up on like a stick being hit on another tree or something other. And we said, "Oh wow, man! I think it's something out here." And it's like, "Yeah, I think something out here because it kind of stinks out here." Reason why I know that I was raised on the edge of a swamp, and I never smelled the swamp smell like that.
Right.
So yeah, it was pretty, and it was a full moon, and we was walking through reeds about 4 foot high. There was a lot of running water, and like those plants, those I guess you call them windmills or whatnot. Were all around, along with reeds. And so we continued to hunt. And so we got walking a little while further. We got up to a hill. It was three of us, and we heard the loud bang again. And my son yells, "Oh shit, there's something out here." And I said, "Yeah, I think so." So he yells, "Go back to back." So we all go back to back to keep the creature, or whatever it was that we didn't know, being able to penetrate us. We all had guns, swinging guns around, looking for something. Of course, it's midnight. Well, past midnight, it's dark. Only got is the moonlight. And the dog comes in between. This is a pit bull, I guess about 35, 40 pounds. He comes in between us. and he's shaking like a leaf on a tree. And I told my son, I said, "Look at your dog, man." He said, "Yeah, he sees something. I mean, his tail is tucked under as far as it could go, and he's looking off in a direction. And I'm looking off in that direction. And I took my foot, and he's supposed to be a really mean pit bull, and I push him out there. Go get it, you know. And he don't turn around. He squats down and shuffles backwards. So then we knew it was really close. So we're looking and we're swinging, and then all of a sudden, this creature stands up, and it's about 4 foot over the reeds, and it's up so high up over the reeds you can literally see it up over the dark shadow of it. I could see it, but some was a foot away from me. His angle, he couldn't see it. And of course, the other gentleman, he was looking behind us, make sure nothing come up behind us. And I said, I got it, I got it. I could have shot it, but I'm not going to eat it, so I'm not going to shoot it. So plus it's on 2 legs.
Probably
Don't
a
want to
good
shoot it
thing.
anyway.
Probably a good
Yeah,
thing you didn't shoot it.
yeah, probably, because it was. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying 4+ foot wide. This was a tremendous beast, and of course it's got the pointed shaped head on it. And I'm probably about 30 feet away from it, and I'm saying to myself, okay, big boy, you don't come towards me, I won't shoot you. And then this is going on. This is less than a minute, and then while I'm looking right dead at it, you know, its eyes flash red. 2 big red eyes, just without a light on it, it changed color. And it looked like to me, it viewed us in another spectrum.
Hmm.
And it could see like we had guns. We had guns swinging around. And at that time, I felt pretty comfortable to shoot it because nothing that I know from the years I've been a hunter, been in the woods, a creature can turn its eyes a different color without light hitting it.
Yeah.
This creature, this creature did it. So that at that time, my finger got a little tighter on the trigger, but before I could squeeze the trigger, it ran off. Now, I guess about four to 500 yards away, the other 2 hunters was up north, and this thing ran off. And then we're in a swamp. We're in a swamp where there's mud and uneven terrain. This creature ran away so fast and so quietly you could not hear it run away. Didn't hear it go across water, didn't hear it make no noise or nothing. So the other 2 hunters on the north side of the swamp, which I'm saying though because it's in the direction of going to Georgia, um, within I would say within less than 10 minutes, they started hollering, screaming for us to come over because something's stalking them. Now this creature was so smart, it didn't come out in the open and go towards them. It went from tree to tree to try to get to them. And it was getting closer to them. By the time we came over there, it ran off. And that was Florida. And
Now, your son Hunter's joined us. Was he there with you?
yes, no, the hunter now he's more involved here in Virginia.
Okay.
He has we have some insight. I haven't got to that yet. I'm just kind of starting from the beginning, trying to be
I got you.
sequential on it.
Well, Hunter, you're on the show. I know you've got yourself muted, but we've got you in here now. So, one question: when you heard this thing speak and it said this word Ewok, was it a normal human voice? Was it really deep, scratchy? Was there anything strange about it?
It was kind of scratchy, but it was clear. It was scratching an Ewok, and then I heard an eel corn go down, whoosh, and that was it. So I don't know if it was talking to like the baby,
Right.
and I understand that it's food. I believe they're migratory. I believe they're going up down the East Coast. Last year, and I'm sorry, I mean to cut y'all. Last year, after the corn was picked, somebody in North Carolina, I believe there was a report of someone seen one in North Carolina. I believe they're going up and down. They come out this end, or so that I thought, when the corn is available for them to eat. And that's just a wild guess, but that means there's a lot of aquatic life here, up here in Virginia, for them to get to crawdads, fish, whatever rabbits, whatever the case may be. But the most time I'm figuring it around is when corn is ready to be ate on
Yeah,
this
that
end.
sounds like it's a good thing for the diet. Actually, it's got just about everything you need in it. You can actually survive off corn. Um, but I believe just about every state on the East Coast has had at least hundreds, if not 1,000 or so, reported sightings of these creatures since the BFRO started in 1995. So you're talking about 26 years. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you talk about the behavior of the creature, um, people just don't hardly ever see them. But
Well,
still, hundreds is still that's not it's not nothing, you know.
I know other people in my neighborhood has also had experiences, but by me being a night owl, I'm outside a lot, and I like walking at night a lot, and I like being on my porch a lot at night. And now that was when the first time I had ran account really saw the beast that during that time period. The next time I saw it was here on my property where you see those footprints that I showed you. Um,
Yeah,
it,
let's see
it,
that.
it
Let's see that footprint, Daniela. It's a great print. It's an odd shape, and you say it's a baby. It looks like it's at least 6 or 7 inches long, but it's so
oh, it's
wide. And this is
yeah.
one of the two different types of tracks we see: the short, wide, a huge big toe. You can see all the toes in it. Um, you can see it a lot better, not on this screen here, but um, or it's just a big human shaped print. And I don't know if it's two different styles or types, or if it's the foot, the substrate doing it, what. But yeah, that's you can see that sweet gum ball right there at the tip and get a good idea of about how long it is. It's a good
Mhm.
maybe 7 or 8 inches,
Right.
but
You know,
almost
I
as wide.
should have I should have been more careful, and I should have put my foot down beside it when I took the picture. But I was just kind of astounded by it, But that
I'm good.
footprint came in. I'm sorry.
I'm just replying. That's all.
Oh,
I'll stop.
no, it's okay. Well, I mean, that footprint kind of came in after I saw it, And one night about 2 o'clock in the morning, we had cooked on the grill earlier that day. We had cooked some kind of meat, and I didn't clean. I don't clean my grill off once I cook on it. Maybe sometime I might leave the aluminum paper on it, something of that nature. So, and the grill is right off my back bedroom. About 2:30 in the morning, and I wasn't in. Of course, I wasn't in bed because I wasn't sleeping. I was staying up late, and I heard my grill go up and down. And I looked at my wife and I said, "Did you hear that?" She said, "Yeah, I heard that." So I got over to the window and I cut the light on and I opened the window up and there was this creature. And it wasn't matted fur or nothing. It shocked the pure taste out of me. Um, it really got me, and I couldn't even scream, couldn't holler, couldn't say, "Honey, come look," or nothing. I was literally astounded what I saw. It was just almost froze me. It was looking at me, and I was looking at it right through the window. My deck is 10 feet wide, and it was holding on to the rail, and it was a very clean type beast. It wasn't matted fur. It had a round head on it. The head wasn't conical, it was round. And I watched it for about 30 seconds and it watched back at me until it turned away and walked away. Now, it was probably a little bit about 6 foot or more because it walked by my pontoon boat, which is on, the trailer. And his head was kind of just a little bit over the pontoon boat bottom, and it would walk and it turned around and looked and they kept looking back. I guess it was gonna look see if I was going to maybe shoot at it or something like that. But and that's where I picked up that footprint because it kind of went off past my garden in the soft dirt, and that's
Gotcha.
where I got that footprint at right there. Um, So that was kind of a eye shocker. That was really I work on cars. And I don't hang out I used to stay out in my yard till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning working on my cars out back, but I don't know more because I don't know what's around me.
Yeah, that's look, it is shocking, and it can affect you actually in negative ways if you let it. I think it depends probably on what your character is to begin with, but did it affect you going outside after that and what you did
Oh,
outside?
not only that, I've had nightmares. My wife said I've sleepwalked and stayed out there making statements about it as huge and it's big and it stinks, and she said she literally had to try to wake me up to get me back in bed. So it really has the realization of it, every now and then I still got to pinch myself, this crap really going on, but in almost any given night during the week we can hear whoops, you know there's plenty of whoops in the area. I know I'm guessing that there's at least immediately three around me that's coming and going. I hear I used to get house slaps. Well, I know they call them in North Carolina, Carolina boogers.
Hmm.
They will slap the house. Occasionally when I'm in the bathroom, they would just pop the house. And my next door neighbor, back where her horse farm, she said she experienced the same thing. They come by and just slap the house for some particular reason. I don't know what that means or anything like that. Um,
I
I
don't
don't know
think
if they're trying.
anybody does. I don't think anybody knows what any of that means,
Yeah,
but it
trying to jar.
happens. You're not alone in this. This has happened to who knows how many people that have not come forward with this information. And so what we're trying to do is get more people to come forward and talk about these experiences. It just validates all these things more and more and more that we hear them, because we're hearing the same things over and over. It might be a different looking creature, and some of the behaviors might be a little bit different, but for the most part, it's slapping the house, coming up on the porch, looking in the windows. Have you
Yeah.
taken any steps at all to try to prevent this? You put up trail cameras around, anything like that?
Yeah, I have. We just got some. I'm still trying to work the bugs out my Cox cable cameras. Trying to get it reduced from recording, but I only got it recording once. But it wasn't of anything of that nature. But I heard people say if you put cameras up, it'll keep them away. So we put a camera up over the back deck to try to um, keep them awake. I heard some. I've been since this thing happened. Well, since the Patterson Gilman film, I've been looking at that kind of stuff. Always been kind of interested in monsters and stuff like that, but I had no idea it would turn out to be a reality for me. Being a child, looking at dark shadows and the edge of night and all that kind of stuff scared you to death. But here I'm finding that there's a realization to this stuff. You need to be careful or otherwise you may become a victim to them.
And
And
that's the thing. That's the thing, is we don't know enough about them to be able to trust that they're going to do nothing more than watch you or follow you.
right,
If they have the opportunity to do something without being detected, I think they're going to do it. I just
right. Now,
don't know.
I don't trust them. I mean, there was another incident that I sleep with my back door open because I got a screen, country boy style with the windows open, with the screen and the wind blowing through. I love that sort of thing. I like hearing the birds wake me in the morning and whatnot. Another night before they went into my garden, they yelled in my house, and their voices are so strong it just bounces off the walls all the way through the house. You will know that they're out there and they're hollering and screaming. It yelled out Yahweh, and then in the garden there was another yell Yahweh. All right, are you kidding me? You know they're communicating back and forth. What did that mean? I have no idea. But the next day, um, I had vegetables eaten out of my garden,
Hmm.
torn. So I don't, the, these creatures. I don't trust them. I don't know if they're trying to make contact with me for some particular reason. I don't have any idea, you know. But they're hanging around, and I don't particularly care for that.
No, I understand perfectly. And I can tell you what it seems like to me is going on is that the really maybe older ones, the really big guys, for the most part, kind of stay away. It's the younger ones that like to either mess with you, and maybe it's some uh, rite of passage to mess with the humans. Let's try to fool them and
Let's
aggravate.
play with
Who
the
knows?
human beings. Yeah,
They do
don't know.
seem to have some type of rules. Some of them do. There's no reason for us to think that they're all the same. That their behavior, they are the immutable characteristics. The same things we hear over and over. They're big, they're hairy, they're ugly, they hide. Those types of things. But beyond that, there's no that's like speaking a language. There's no reason for us to think that one from the Pacific Northwest is going to speak the same language as one on the East Coast. They're just not connected unless somehow they're all connected, through the head,
Uh,
and who knows
you
about
know,
all that.
I listened to another one of the gentleman that was on there. I can't remember his name. He was saying that he believes they connect the paranormal nature about it. Um, don't
It's a
really
very
know much about that, but I think there's something very strange about this creature. I don't know where it would generate from, with the powers that it have, um, the senses that it have, but I think they have a great intelligence about them. And I went out back and did a little walking around. I didn't get this picture to you, but I also have another large footprint. And maybe next time I can come on, I can download, or you can show it later on.
sure.
And I got my foot beside it. I've got my foot beside it. It is three times my foot size, three times. And if you want to show the picture, that tree bend, and another friend of mine who lives out in the near the Dismal Swamp, think when they pull a tree bend down, it's like don't go no further than right here. It's like stop, don't go no further, or you might get seen. That tree bend that you see there, it's about three and a half inches round, and it's green, and it's pulled straight over
Well,
down like that.
I don't know if Daniela put those up here. Yep, she did. I lost her though. I don't know where she went. There it is.
Yeah.
And that wasn't like that before. You just came out and
No,
there it was.
right, right. As you can see, the other ones are straight up around it.
Sure.
Straight up. That one was pulled downward. There was more pictures of that, but I figured that's just one that's good enough. And
Sure.
probably just south of that, maybe 30, 40 yards, there's larger footprints. And one morning, one Saturday morning, about 9 o'clock, was eating breakfast in bed. There was a loud bang from the horse stable in the back. I guess somebody might have dropped some metal or something or other. And I guess it might have started one of the bigger ones. And my wife saw it, and it was every bit 9, 10 feet big, and she only saw it for like a couple of seconds, but she said she saw it, and it was pretty large. So
10
I
feet.
think
I
at
mean,
least nine is. I went out and measured. I held my hand up. She said higher, higher, and it was I couldn't reach as high that it was. So it was a massive beast, very massive. The footprint was just that I have, but it just
now,
astounding.
what kind of woods do you have around your house? Is it green belt? Is it a bunch of woods? Or is it just like a slim piece of trees connected to some woods?
Um, Imagine like field trees, bunch of trees, and more fields.
Okay.
Uh, really large farm area down through here. Being out in Back Bay, there's a lot of water and large ditches in the area, a lot of spots to hide in. I'm not even certain that they're not even in. I got a vacant house here on my property. They don't even go in there. I heard some weird noises coming out of there, dogman style type noise, and that was kind of freakish when I heard that. And I'm not certain if there are other abandoned homes in the area as well. There's plenty of places for them to hang out or go take refuge in around here.
Look, we've heard of them being in, remote subdivisions, but really not that remote. There's just something, there's some kind of green belt, some little trail of trees, some way for them to get around people's houses. And where a lot of these encounters and sightings happen, it's not off deep in the woods. It's around on the periphery. It's the edge of a park,
They're coming in.
national parks. You don't get a lot of reported sightings there because who they're going to report it to, but the park rangers or the wildlife officers, and they're not going to say anything. So you don't hear a lot of those unless a report comes to the BFRO or some other site that takes actual sighting reports. You're just not going to hear about it. Their mainstream's not going to. If the mainstream does anything with it, it's a parody or making fun of it or making a joke of it. And it's kind of understandable at this point. You know, I think it's easier, especially for anybody in the scientific community, to go along just to get along than it is to buck the established order of things, because you have to stop and think about what happened, what's going to happen, because it's just a matter of time as far as I'm concerned. They can't hold the truth down forever. It's going to come out. And when it does, they're going to have a lot of explaining to do. Things we've been taught for 200 years are wrong.
Right. You know, but you don't know how much really the government is involved into this, and if there's some kind of science experiment or something, UFO phenomenon, or some kind of experiments coming down, you never really may know about that. But one thing I know for sure, these creatures are multiplying, and they're getting more gutsier, and the population is growing, and because the people are starting to see more of them now, and probably a lot more. Like you said, they just don't feel comfortable enough to speak about it because of the ridicule that comes with it, and a lot of that comes with it until something happens. So I was at the edge of the woods the other night, and I heard something I couldn't believe I heard, and then the realization sinks in that there's something out there at night. And I'm telling you, all your listeners out there, this is a true incident that's happened to me here at my household with me and my family. My son heard whistling just about how long ago? 2 days?
A couple weeks ago.
It was a couple weeks ago. Yeah, about a couple weeks ago, he heard whistling out back, and so if they are going to head south, they haven't headed south yet, but I believe they will be heading south because the corn around my house is gone. But
right.
I believe they're still around as of right now. Just a couple nights ago, there's a bunch of whoops going on. So just got to be careful out there now. And I just hate to hear somebody become a statistic. I mean, if you hear some of the stories that I listen to people and their encounters, some of them are really bad. Where these creatures don't feed them wherever you do. Don't try to get close to them because that could turn on you. And I hear some people have been killed by these creatures.
Yeah, we've heard that too. But I think for the most part, if that does happen, who's going to be around to tell it? People disappear people disappear all the time. I'm talking about without a trace.
Oh,
just
yeah,
gone.
Yeah.
And who knows really what's going on there? I mean, this day and age, that's a hard thing to do, is to just disappear without a trace. Tell us about the one that you heard. You said he was sleeping. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Now, after I came out and the next night, I couldn't. The night when my garden was gone into, I came out about the same time, about 3 o'clock. That's about an hour, and I heard something snoring out under a tree. I got like a little hangover area that is growing over it, but you can see how something has went under the bushes and kind of hollowed it out. And I heard something snoring out there one night. I mean, it was just so loud I can hear all of my from the edge of the woods to my house. It's like 80 feet or so, something like that, and I could literally hear this creature snoring out in the trees.
Just sound like a big person.
He was definitely pulling some Z's. I tell you, he was really calling it in. And it was really so loud. I felt like I really could go out there and shake him up a little bit. But I said no, but not do that. May not go too well for me if I did that. But they're just all over the place here. And like I said, I don't know why did they finding my particular property interesting, or why they feel like they can come here. But I'm certainly having more encounters of than I really want to.
How long has
Actually,
it been going on? I might have missed it. Sorry. How long have you been? How's it been going on at your property?
since about 2015, 2016, off and on. And I've seen them. One incident, heard my next door neighbor across the street dog barking about 2, 3 o'clock. Again, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I go up and look, and this creature was wasn't bulky. He was slender. He wasn't thick at all, but he was really tall. And he was running in between the two houses, and he had to run by a lamp post outside, a street light, and I could see it very clearly from head to his knees. And the weird part about it was, from his knees down to his feet, I could not see. I did not see it at all. So that brought about a big question mark to me. Did I really see that or not? So on the other side of my property, I have like a junkyard of bicycles and stuff like that. And within the next 30 seconds, something starts rambling through those, like it got caught up in that junk pile. And I said, well, okay, I did see something, you know, and just this really amazing kind of stuff
It's
has
a
been
shame,
going.
is what it is. It's a shame that you have to question yourself for those
I
things.
do.
And,
I
and
do. You know,
it all comes down to conditioning. It's the way we've been conditioned since the first time we hear the word Bigfoot or Sasquatch and learn to associate that with what it means. Is that it's doesn't exist. It's just a story. It's just some tale somebody's making up, the boogeyman. And that's the shame about the whole thing, is that it can't be brought forward as just for what it is. We don't have to know what it is, just that it's actually there, and someone
yeah,
can confirm that. And they may be 12 different types of different things out there. Who knows? We can't
right.
study them ourselves. We just don't have the technology to study them to find out these things. At least I haven't seen it anyway. Personally, I think whatever three-letter agency or whoever is studying them, I think they watch certain researchers and listen to certain stories and people and get all, and they're using them to study these creatures, because there are researchers in very viable areas. Into the 400, Shane Carpenter, Chris Reinhardt, I mean, Christopher Noel, when they go into places, they're around them. It's just
Right.
all there is to it. So
Right.
I think that's part of it, but just the fact that it's being held, for whatever reason, it may be a really good one. I don't know. I hope it is. I can't think of a really good one myself, but
It's
that's
really
just me.
creepy. Really creepy to think these things are just hanging around people's houses when they've got all that woods and stuff. It's just, it is
Their
creepy.
their
You
their
know,
curiosity, I guess, will bring them in. Like the smell of my grill, you know. What that lets me know they like meat, not just vegetables or fish or something of that nature. They like meat because they went into my grill, and their curiosity. I guess maybe like you said, the young one came up on my porch. I actually broke a board on my porch. Came in maybe partially because he wanted to see what was in the grill, and then again he wanted to see me just as much as I wanted to see him. Well, I didn't want to see him that much, but he looked at me as long as he wanted to, because I was stuck right there in the window looking at him with the light on, and I got, of course, the big floodlights as well, so I saw him very well, very well. It was a very formed creature. He wasn't. It was like the best athlete that you can look at. Except it was long arms and very stout chest and very well shaped head. You know, then I figure that was the baby that the older ones might have been communicating to, because it really wasn't that huge of a creature, but it was definitely not human.
The big ones probably knew they couldn't go on your porch because they probably knew they would destroy it. But you asked a question and you said you don't know why it's you. And I'll tell you what I think about this, because we talked to a lot of people, same situation you're in, relatively. I think it's you. I think it is your nature. I think they watch us long enough and get to know people enough to know who they can get away with what, that they're not going to startle you so bad that you're going to shoot them, that you're just that type of person that they can get away with these things with.
Well,
That's just what I
I
think.
I don't believe in killing a animal for sure. So that's truthful on that nature. If I'm not going to eat it, I'm not going. That's the way we was taught. Don't just go out and kill and shoot just for the hell of it. I don't believe in that, and I taught it to my boys. Just don't go out and shoot anything just for fun or sports. It's a living entity. Don't do it. You know, if you want target practice, put some targets up, but don't just go shoot an animal innocently. So that is one of our hunters' creed, that we don't do that.
Well,
And
you gotta be thinking in a moment like that when you got a gun in your hand that this could be a person. You know, what if I shoot and kill somebody? That
don't want
has
to
to
have that
go
on
through
my
your head.
yeah,
Sure.
I don't. Yeah, I don't want that. Even I wouldn't want if I could. If I did shoot it, I wouldn't want to shoot it for the purpose of scientific fact. I would not want to do that because I don't think that's necessary to do that. I think now, I think enough people have seen it and reported it that if the government's not involved in it, they should get involved in it if they want to bring out the truth, the total truth. Now, I heard, I watched some other guys. I think the guy name is Todd Standing. Um, I think some of his stories been discounted though, but he's got. I think the state of Washington said that you can't shoot it or something like that nature. Maybe it's because they figure it's not really a real animal. And so I don't know if that's some kind of hoax or something to that nature. But for me here on this property, it's a very real fact, and I want all your listeners out there to know that these are true incidents that's happened here at just my home. And I'm coming out my comfort zone because I'm not really used to speaking to large groups of people.
And we
But
appreciate it.
well, you're welcome. But don't get caught off guard. If you're going to go out on your hiking trails or walk through the woods, take some protection with you just in case, because these creatures, and the one around my house may be passive, but the one you run into may not be passive.
Right.
It may
That's
be
the
a
thing.
it may be a very angry creature.
When you talk about them, if they don't know, let me tell you, whatever agency group, maybe some shadow group, who knows? They know. Wildlife officers, they're not that bad at their job that they don't know. If you go to, hey, Oklahoma's got a bounty on them, okay? They want you to shoot one. Of course, they don't think it's true. They're they're doing it as some kind of hoax or joke, but I mean, that's a dangerous thing to do. That's when you get somebody shot in the woods putting a $3 million bounty on a Sasquatch. But you
I,
look, if you go to Florida Wildlife and you apply for a hunting license, look in the hogs section, the very last line, like this is online, it says, no taking of any hominoid or skunk ape type creatures.
wow, really did
Right
not
there
know
on the hunting license application.
did
The
not know
rules
that.
and regulations, go to it in the hogs. It's the very last line. You guys can look. I had it somewhere. I don't know where it is now, but
Now I wonder why they put that there if it wasn't true.
exactly. It's CYA.
So
It's covering them in case if you do happen to kill one down there, they can come get it. Hey, look,
right,
it says right here. You're not
right.
showing this to anybody. We're taking it. And I bet it's happened more than once.
Hey, and for the first just walking in the woods the first time in Florida and run up on that creature, the population of them must be very dense, very dense. So just by going out in the woods, walking through the woods, and walk up on one that's bedded down. Um, the numbers have got to be pretty phenomenal in there.
We
Got to be
hear
pretty
from a
thick.
lot of experts. We do. We hear from a lot of experts these numbers. There's 3,000. There's 4,000. There's 64,000, someone said, which was a very exact number. Reminded me of my old weatherman who said one day that there was a 67% chance of rain. I was like, man, this guy's good.
Yeah, yeah. I know how they come up with those numbers, right?
Right. But
That's a lot of drones flying around.
sure. But I think people aren't understanding scale. And there's a lot of there's some things that I talk about on here. If you've watched this show more than once, you've heard me talk about these things. I'll ask these people, how many white-tailed deer do you think there are in the lower 48? Just the lower 48, just white-tailed deer, not elk, black-tail, moose, all of these other deer. How many? And the number is usually 3 or 4 million. And it's 10 times that. It's 30 to 35 million white-tailed deer. Okay.
Right.
And then here's another thing I use for scale I got from my buddy John. You can take every person on the planet, 8 billion people, and give them all 13 square feet, and they'll all fit in Culberson County, Texas. Culberson County is out there on the west wing of Texas. It looks like Nevada, except it's flipped over backwards. It's pretty big. It's a 3,800 square mile county. It's not the biggest county in Texas. We're talking about every person on the planet. You think there can't be a million Sasquatch just in the lower 48? There could be 2 or 3. It has to be.
And the numbers growing all the time. You know, sure. And I mean, for what I've seen, I hear other people say, well, it was carrying something, looked like a baby, you know. So, and you know, people are reporting that. And so I don't know. And do they go to a certain place? They all get together and do whatever, and then split back off, and then come back together a certain time of the year. I don't know, you know, but
I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, I do believe something is going on, and the numbers are growing vastly. I'm almost certain because there's more and more stories. Even more stories came out this week. You know, you don't know if they're true or not, but more incidents are being told. And I think that's going to be the new norm here pretty soon. This every week or every other week, I talked to my neighbor, and they're from West Virginia, and they ran into one on their property, but he's not going to come out and say it, you know. But he said on his property, he had 20 acres out in West Virginia, and it wasn't a problem. But he said he didn't shoot at it. He said just left it alone and walked and got out of the woods and never went back in the woods again. So the more I talk about it with people, the more incidents I'm finding. Next door neighbor over here to the north of me, he's got something on his cam running across the road, you know, on his door cam. And but I'm finding more and more people have something to say about that just around me, you know. So I feel like this is going to be the new norm, and the government's not going to get into it really until somebody gets attacked and they can find the body or they survive the attack.
Well, if they can prove that that's what happened, it's going to have to be on camera. Look, they'll spend so much disinformation. They already do it. I think messing with Sasquatch is a good indicator of just how much they parody and make a joke of it. And I think a lot of these hoax videos you see, people in a suit and out there kicking around through the woods, this might be them, man. It might very well be them. Just putting some disinformation out there for us. The thing for me is that's not the behavior. But before we got about 15 minutes, I'd like to take some questions from the chat for you if you don't mind, but I also like to hear from Hunter. Hunter, did you have a story that you had for us?
Yeah,
can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, no. It's because you both too close to one another.
That's okay. Look, all we got to do is mute. No, we'll just mute Wade. We'll just mute Wade.
Yeah.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. We got you.
I can't tell if you hear you not. Say it again.
Yes.
You guys can hear me?
Yes.
All right. It's cool. What's up, guys?
How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Good to
be on here. I don't have a webcam though, so I'll fall about that.
No worries.
You want to come sit over here?
No, I'm alright.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you guys hear me good?
Yeah. So
Sweet.
you had an experience there. Won't you tell us what happened?
Okay. A couple, I think it was last week, my dad and his wife, they went to Washington D.C. for a couple days to figure some things out for their personal needs and things like that. So the first night that they left, it was probably they left at like 12 or 11 that night. So about 1 a.m., I was getting up to go to the bathroom, and I had the door open. We have a screen door. We live pretty much on a farmhouse, pretty much. So I had the screen door open and whatnot. And as I was walking by, I saw the kitten outside, and it's my kitten, so I'm gonna go outside and pet him. And I went outside on the porch to pet him, and I heard whistling coming from my west and my east, and they were like kind of simultaneous. So I'm not really sure what that was all about, but I know we have heard whistling, in our backyard multiple nights and things like that. So that's probably the only experience I've ever had. But since I moved here, former college football player, just came back home from college and stuff like that. So
Okay.
that's the only thing I've experienced.
Yeah, but I mean, you could tell it wasn't a bird, right?
Oh, definitely not at 1 a.m. I don't think so.
Sure. I mean, did it sound like somebody?
Yeah, the whistle was very pitched like almost to perfection, kind of. So
Yeah, more than likely not somebody, not just
Yeah,
out there
exactly.
messing around. I mean, obviously, when what your dad talks about experiencing and hearing, I mean, it seems self-evident that this is what's going on out here. That you heard this whistling. I'm gonna, since we can't have you both on at once, Hunter. I have a son, 17 years old. His name's Hunter. So we appreciate you coming on and telling us
sure,
that.
man. Yeah.
I'm gonna put Mr. Wade back on. Thank you, Hunter.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, you guys have a good night.
You too, buddy. All right, I got you unmuted there, Mr. Bell.
Yeah, I'm here.
Did we get any questions from our chat?
Diane Farlow asking whether they're still active around you.
A lot.
Yeah.
I get plenty of whoops. A couple nights ago, they were just, I don't know what's going on, but there was like 6 whoops we're hearing all in different places. I don't know if they think they're smart or not, but they try to mimic owls, I guess, but owls don't go whoop whoop, So we heard a lot of that going on.
Mike Stetton has a really good, not a question, but a very relevant statement. The question is, where are they not? Seems like there are sightings everywhere. I can tell you this much, Mike. There's never been a reported sighting out here where I am in West Texas, but there's not a tree for over 100 miles in any direction of me. It's as flat. I'm not saying the earth is flat, just flat out here. No, you can't see past the horizon in any direction. There's no habitat for them here. So that's why I like to work out here. I don't think I have to worry about them, but I can see the mountains. They're only 20 miles away, and I probably pretty much guarantee you they're out there. But that's an excellent statement. Where are they not? They have to be everywhere. They've been reported in every single state except Hawaii, Canada, and Mexico, all over the North American continent, all over Australia, all over Europe, Western Europe, Asia, all over Russia, China. This all appears to be the same thing everywhere except Antarctica. These things have, on 6 continents. They're out there. What and what they're doing, I don't know.
Right. Maybe they're smart. Maybe they don't like the snow. Maybe they don't like warm weather. I know I wouldn't be hanging around in snow neither.
Yeah, but Pete, they see them in the weather in Canada. There you go. You got it, Danielle.
Yeah. Wade, did you or your neighbors ever call the cops? Have you ever thought about calling the police?
Absolutely not. No, I did not. And unless I had to use deadly force against it. If it tried to break into my house, I'd be telling them to come pick it up. Other than that,
don't do that. Call me. Call me, because we're going to go live on YouTube right then. That's what we're at. That's what, if you have to shoot one, don't call them, because it'll disappear and nobody will ever hear about it.
I think I really could have killed one, but it's just not my nature to do that. But and I'm not going to do that unless I have to defend my household. and so far they don't seem to be that type of aggressive. You know, I'm not gonna go feed them or nothing, and I'll try to draw them to me. In fact, I'm taking steps to keep them away from me by using cameras. I don't really want to interact with these animals because I believe there's a potential of danger because they unknown. And I heard something really weird, man. Is um just sounds very unsafe. It was a howl that's kind of like, what in my God world is that? You know, and I don't want that kind of stuff around me. And like I said, I already don't go outside at night unless I have to. I don't work on my cars at night in the backyard anymore because they are very crafty and very sneaky. So, no, I would never call the cops unless I had to.
It's fair enough, isn't it? John's 3 says, now that your family knows it's real, has that changed your worldview or your faith?
I haven't really changed my faith. My faith is pretty strong in Jesus Christ. It just I don't know why these things are there, which I one time didn't think was there. But now that the family members, because my son that has property in Florida, I'm not Florida, well him too. My son that has property in Suffolk near the Dismal Swamp. He's coming around 100% now by his experiences. His next door neighbor, which referred me to this blog here, um, told him about it, and then he started hanging outside at night a little bit, and then he actually heard something I never heard. He heard the chatter. He heard him chattering out the back of his property, and now he's been aware of it. He sees their little structures that they build for temporary tree build bins and all that kind of stuff. Excuse me. So yes, it's very enlightening now, and I feel a lot more comfortable. And everybody's kind of like looking around now and doing researching and looking at the missing 411. I don't know if you saw that or not, but missing Alaska. Hunters, seasoned hunters, are coming up missing. For can't find a trace of them. Don't know how that would happen.
I said it's unusual for anybody to just go missing without a trace. The way we have cadaver dogs now, we have dogs that can find anybody. That pick up your scent. They're going to find you. And when they put these dogs out, according to David Politis, they don't track. Dogs that are born and bred to hunt, they live for it. You let them out, they get the scent and lay down or come to get at the handler's feet and won't go further. Many times, apparently, that has happened.
Maybe that's very smart of them. They don't want to be tracking that creature, which would be smart on their part. Because the dog that when my son dog noticed that creature in the woods in Orange County, and if anybody here on this show lives in Florida, Orange County, hey, you better watch out, because I was just in the woods one time and I ran across that creature, and that scared that pit bull literally essless. You know, he was really frightened. He was shaking. The dog was shaking. So dogs don't like those. They're very frightened of those creatures, and I can understand why. You know.
We've got your other son. Yeah. This is maybe my neighbour and I can come on next week, talk about our experiences here in Suffolk.
Yes.
There's a lot going on.
Absolutely, Wyatt. We'd love to have you. Matter of fact, your dad can give you my number. You can call me. We'll talk about it. We'll work up a program, and we'd love to have you on. Talk to your neighbor too. But yeah, you can get my number. That's anybody. If anybody wants to call and just talk about your experience, if you want somebody to talk to that's going to understand, call me. That's why we're here. 601-215-0581. If I don't answer it, I'll call you right back, or I'll text you right back. And usually I answer it every single time, but call. If you just want to get it off of you, to talk to somebody about this and understand, that's what we're here for. Because we don't care about Sasquatch. We don't care anything about them. What we care about are the people that run into them, because we know what that does. We know what it can do. to you, and you having to carry that around and not able to get it off of you because you have no one to tell. You tell your family, they tell you you're crazy. You try to tell the neighbors or talk to someone else. This is the problem here, is ridicule. That's why we tell people to ask yourself a question before you leave a comment and talk about someone, because look, whether you believe someone or not is fine. But what you're doing when you leave those negative comments, well, this person's just full of it, it's not about that person. It's about the person sitting on the fence that might want to come forward with their story. And then they read something like that. They're not going to want to come forward because, hey, look, I'm going to get ridiculed here. Why am I coming forward with it? So it's understandable. Not everyone believes everyone. There's a lot that's hard to believe here. I tend to believe everybody that says they see it because I've seen it. I'm not going to tell you didn't see it and I've seen it. No. But you're talking about Florida. We went down, we filmed our 168 hours film down there with 18 people. And we caught some stuff. When you guys finally get to see it, I got another really big segment done of it today. So hopefully soon. I don't know. It's coming though. I'm working on as much as I can. It's just the computer.
I like the computer.
You guys are gonna see it. What some of this stuff captures, clear stuff you're ever gonna see.
In fact, I'd like to join your investigating team if you need another member. Yeah,
well, we're definitely going back. Once this one comes out, we were going to go back in November, but we're having to push that off. So we're thinking of going back in the spring, but you got my number. Call me if you're going to be watching the show. We'll be putting that out there for others to go. Yeah, you're welcome to join us. Absolutely.
Fantastic. I'd love to do that.
I'm just wondering, Wade, you know the one on the porch, did you get a good look at the face?
I did. And like I said, I had a 100-watt floodlight on it. And it was not afraid to look at me. It was very, it was very muscular. I mean, it wasn't flabby or flat. It was just like a youngster would be in his 20s, you know. And it was fit. And the features, I mean, it was black, and the hair was short. The features were not overly blown. Mm-hmm. It was you know, if you took the hair off of it, you know, the nose wasn't really big. The eyes were black. Everything was black. Okay, everything was black. And for what I can tell, you know, it was no other color on that creature. It was a young creature, and I'm really guessing to say that it was very curious about me. It's probably just as much as I was astounded by it. You know, it's like I really couldn't even believe what the heck I was looking at. I just could not. I even as of right now, as I go back through my mind and I'm seeing that creature, you know, standing by my back porch, it's still just not like it was real. I still question myself because it's just something I was not expecting to see on my deck when I cut the light on and looked.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to say real quick, that number, that's not to call into the show. Sorry, that's my Bigfoot phone number. That's just if anybody wants to call and talk about their experience, I'm here for you. Or if you want to come on the show, that's a number you can call to come on. So email me, that's fine, but we still need to talk on the phone before you come on the show. So usually people eat people.
That's great, Casey. Yeah. That's great. I appreciate that. Somebody else wants to talk to you about so this broadcast makes me feel good that other people want to talk to you.
Yes.
About their experiences. That really touches me, and you don't know how comforting that is to me. That somebody else want to talk about their experience. Man, that's like, wow, okay, somebody else has seen this crap. I'm not really crazy, you know, and I'm beginning to be a part of a select community, and we can all share this stuff, you know.
That's right. That's what it's about.
Help other people to be aware. You know, I hate to hear when somebody going out in the woods, going for a stroll, maybe taking a loved one for a quiet nature walk, and come into something that they're not prepared for. Don't do it. don't do it. Take some protection with you. You
Good
may need
advice.
it. Better to have than have not.
Mm,
Yeah,
Excellent advice.
yeah.
Excellent
who
advice.
knows what that creature would have did in Florida if were not protected? Because after it turned its eyes red on us and it saw that we had weapons, it hauled ass.
Mm.
It got away. Because I really was gonna shoot it then. Because then I know what I was looking at was not what I could have was not a human being. It was something that don't I don't think it belonged here. But I know they're here. But it shouldn't be here. Should not be here. And I don't know
Yeah.
how long creatures. I've been, and I questioned, the film with Roger Patterson, and I questioned that a little bit. Um, I did read his deathbed confession on that, but now that I have my own personal experiences. Like, who am I to say that guy didn't see what he saw?
Well, I think we got a pretty good show planned for you. Joining us all the way from Minnesota, Mike B. How you doing, Mike?
Good, good. Finally, we get to meet, sorta.
Yeah, absolutely. And glad you got to join us. I had someone else actually lined up for today and haven't heard back from him. It seems to be the case here lately. I talk to people and they want to come on the show until it's time to come on the show, and I don't hear anything. So you probably won't see those folks on the show at all. I hate to say that, but so at least if you don't want to come on the show, that's fine. Just don't tell me you want to come on, and if you're not going to message me back after 2 days, just tell me, hey, look, I can't make it.
Oh.
So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Real quick, something I wanted to. I can't remember where I put this. I just want to thank a couple of people and got a couple of prayer requests. I'm getting a new computer, and I had asked people not to send me money, and a few did, and I just wanted to say thank you very much. I appreciate that. Miss Ramona Brost, Charles Hamill, the lovely Miss Lindsay Bay, Miss Brandon Ransom. Those four did send me some money, and I do definitely appreciate that. But I'm good. I'm going to get the new computer, ordering it tomorrow. So I want to thank y'all very much for that. Couple of prayer requests. Miss Lisa Enlow, she was slated to go on the next 168 with us. She's having heart surgery. So you don't mind keeping her in your prayers. And Brandon Ransom, you'll see him in here. And I think he is high strangeness when you see him. His wife has had cancer for a while, and if you could keep her in your prayers, greatly appreciated. Prayer does work, so it does matter. So we thank you all you prayer warriors. You guys are great. Well, all right, well, let's get right into this. Mike, we had a pretty good phone conversation earlier. You didn't really believe in Bigfoot, did you?
It's not that I didn't. It's really, I never thought about it. I would see show or two. This is years ago, and of course the Patty footage, and I thought, what if? Like everybody else, but I never dreamed, I'd have something happen.
Well, let's just kind of walk us through what you liked to do and all that, and then the day everything happened.
Well, my wife and I used to be real avid motorcycle riders, and in Minnesota, summertime is it's not like the South where they quit riding because it's too hot. There's bikes everywhere, and the thing is we started losing a lot of people, a lot of texting and driving accidents, hitting motorcycle riders. And one day my wife said to me, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Because she was losing friends and getting really hurt. Friends that are getting in bad accidents. And, you know, I thought to myself, you know, I bought the bike because I had about a 37-mile ride to work. And I thought this would be great. You know, gas is expensive and this would be great to go back and forth to work. But I also forgot what it's like to ride in rush hour traffic. And it just became no fun. So we decided we were going to sell the bike and get a side-by-side because I love the woods. Ever since I've been a kid, I love the woods. I snowmobiled when I was a kid. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was night riding. And, you know, I grew up in the 60s, in the early 70s, you know, as a kid on a snowmobile. And you didn't have groomed snowmobile trails. The trails just went through the woods. And the snowmobiles were so little that, I mean, they could just weave in and out of trees and go anywhere. So it was amazing where you could go. And I did a lot of night riding. And I just really thoroughly enjoyed seeing game, you know, after dark or right before dark. You'd see deer, you know, you'd see coyotes, you'd see fox. And so when we decided to get this side by side, that thought crossed my mind, man, I could go night riding again. So here I buy this 50-inch huge light bar to go across the top of my side by side. And you turn it on, and when I hooked it up, I waited till dark and I turned it on, and I thought I was going to melt the paint off the neighbor's house. It was so bright. And I thought, this is perfect. And so my wife and I decided we were going to go. I had about 10 days vacation to burn up. And so we went, you know, from Minneapolis area where we live, we went up to the North Shore. Excuse me. And this was 2018, Labor Day 2018. And we had a camper and a truck. We actually had two trucks, so we had to tow the side-by-side separately with a different truck. And we went up and to the North Shore, and I found a little town. I'm purposely going to be just a little vague on this, where it is, but it's up by the Isabella area. And anyway, couldn't find a camping spot. Forgot. It's Labor Day. Everybody's camping. This is the last weekend, really, in Minnesota. This is the last weekend. And so here's this little hotel, and we got a room. They had a room left. And so we got a hotel room, and I figured, well, I'll just stay there, you know, till Monday, and then everybody will vacate the woods, and I'll get into a campground. And so my wife and I went riding, and it was so much fun. I mean, if you've ever been up at the North Shore, there's a height of land. It's a ridge that follows the North Shore of Lake Superior. And, you know, you look at Superior is about, what, 600 feet? Maybe it's sea level. Well, it's, you know, the highest spot up there on that ridge is 2,000 feet. And it's just gorgeous. And so, you know, when we rented the room, I backed the trailer, and the guy told me, hey, just back it over here on the grass. And so we stayed there, and then my wife had to leave Monday afternoon to come home. And she had to work, and then she was going to come back the following Friday. And so we went on a ride, and we're riding along this trail. And what it was from the little town we were staying in, it was a trail that kind of cut through the woods. And it was marked. It was a designated ATV trail, but it joined up with the main trail system. And I think we got back about 2-3 miles. And beautiful day. Trail is nice and wide. We were coming up to this bridge over this small river or creek. And all of a sudden she says, stop, 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 stop. And so I stop and I go, what? And she goes, I don't want to go here. And I'm looking at the trail thinking, this is an easy trail. And I'm doing maybe 10, 15 miles an hour just tootling through the woods. So it wasn't anything I was doing. And I said, why don't you want to go down there? I just don't. Turn around. And so I just decided I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to, she had a look on her face, and I went, there's no way.
Wouldn't have done you any good anyway.
I think I would have had some scratches in the side of my head.
Did she tell you why?
No.
Any indicator?
Nope. I was trying, I didn't really spend a whole lot of time dwelling on why not, but I just looked at her and I said, okay, you're going to make me go the 3 miles back to town, 5 miles up the road, and then cut back in to get where we want to go, which is about a mile up ahead. I don't care. We're going. So off we went. And I really didn't think a whole lot about it. I had a great day, saw some incredible spots. And I brought her back, and she left and went back to the cities to go to work. We call Minneapolis, St. Paul the cities. So anyway, so the next morning I decided I'm going to take off 4:30 in the morning because I want to see up there. I had been going up there since I was a kid. And I remember it was nothing. You get up there and, at night it got dark at about 10 o'clock up there. So you hit the road at about 9, the log roads. It was nothing to see 10, 15 bear, or 10 moose. And so I figured I'm going to take off 4:30 in the morning. And so I decided, I got up and it was raining to beat the band. Well, this is a brand new machine and I didn't care. And I had a roof on it and some, somewhat sides. And I decided I'm just going to go. So I went. I had just a great time. And the only thing is this thought kept crossing my mind. You're out here alone. You shouldn't really be doing that. Now I'm on a brand new machine. I'm on a state trail figuring, if anything happens, somebody'd come along. But this thought always was there. And I didn't really think about this thought being there until after this episode happened. So anyway, about noon it stopped raining and the sun came out, and I had gone about 30 miles, so I'm on my way back, and I decide that there's this bridge over a river, and I stopped, took a break, and I got out of the ATV, and I thought, I'm going to get a picture of my side-by-side, with all the lights and all that stuff. I thought it'd be cool to get a shot on that bridge. And so I walked down the trail, I don't know, 20 yards maybe, 15 yards, turned around, got a great picture of the ATV on the bridge. And so I'm just kind of standing around, looking up the river, and all of a sudden, to the right of me, as I'm looking back at the ATV, which is pointed my direction, behind there's a group of pine trees, and they're really thick. It's probably 6, 8 of them in a row. It sounded like somebody was back there kicking the grass. What it sounded like was a moose kicking the grass around. And I thought to myself, it is getting towards moose rut. September starts moose rut. So I thought, I wonder if that's a bull. And I just sat there and watched for a while, and it kept getting louder. And I thought, excuse me. I thought maybe I should get a little closer to this ATV just in case he comes out, because they can get kind of cranky, during the rut if they see you. Mm-hmm. So I go over to the bridge, and I'm standing between the ATV and the side of the bridge, and this grass is still just kicking around, and then it stopped. And I'm just waiting for this moose to walk out. Well, then, you had described in a story that green branch, and you can hear all the fibers tearing.
Yeah.
And then the final just crack.
Yeah.
That happened. And I'm just thinking, man, this thing must have got a hold of a big branch or something. And I wasn't scared. I was just cautious because I didn't want to get in between him and my ATV if he was, in a rut. Well, then I heard a crack again. And I thought, this doesn't sound right. There's something not right. And I could feel that something just wasn't right. Well, anyway, all of a sudden I start hearing branches break up high in the trees. And what it is a 6-inch log, about 4.5, 5 feet long, comes flying out from behind these pine trees, clears the pine trees, goes across the river and hits the other side and shakes the ground when it hits. And I'm just stood there for a minute and, whatever this is doesn't want me here.
No doubt.
Didn't think anything. Didn't think anything of a creature or anything. I just thought, whatever this is doesn't want me here. And I got in the ATV, took off, and I went back to the hotel, which was about a half-hour ride. And the guy that owned the hotel, at the end of the hotel, it has a bait shop. So I don't know. I think this was about 12:30. I got back there in pretty short order. And I went in to talk to him because I would go have coffee with him when I'd come back from my rides. And we were talking for a while. And finally I said to him, I said, I want to talk to you about something. I said, have you had any weird things happen when you're out on these ATV trails? Something you don't understand? And he looks at me like, what? So I told him the story. And he says, oh, you mean those black furry kind? And I said, no, a bear, there's no way a bear is going to throw a log like this. Straight face looked right at me and he says, I'm not talking about a bear. And I went, oh, he's nuts. And he starts telling me story after story about right behind his hotel. And he said it was mostly in the late fall and early winter where he was hearing screams and yelling and whooping and all this stuff. And he says, now I've never seen them, but they've been close enough where I've smelled them. Starts telling me the story about, 15, 20 miles from the hotel his mother lived, and that was where he grew up. He starts telling me even more stories. And the more he's talking, I'm thinking, this guy's crazy. And so, or watch too much TV, you know what I'm saying? Because he had never seen it. And the tip-off is he said I'd never seen it. Now, if he would have told me I saw one and it chased me in some elaborate story, I probably would have went, yeah, he's crazy. But, he must have been able to tell that I wasn't quite convinced. So he reaches in a drawer and pulls this newspaper out. And I think it's a bi-monthly little local paper up there that they put out. And he opens it up, I don't know, 3-4 pages in. He shows me the sad. And here's a picture of Bigfoot. And it's just from just above the chest up, right? And the caption on it says, have you seen me? With a question mark, and underneath it said, you're not crazy. He gave me this. He says, I'm going to cut this out for you. So he gave it to me, and he said, call this guy. And the guy's, name was in there, phone number, or his email if you don't want to call him. And so I put that in my wallet. And the rest of the week, again, that same spot where my wife was uncomfortable. And I none of this was put together. None of this. In my head, I was not convinced this was a Bigfoot. And I just, I get to that spot and it was like, I shouldn't be here. Just a tinge of it, not a blatant, not a big signal, not hit me over the head with a 2x4. It was just, I never felt comfortable. Now I could get 10 miles down the trail out in the middle of even more nowhere, feel fine. And I went 60 miles the other direction on one of the day trips I took. And never worried about anything, except for there was one spot where it just, again, man, I don't think I should be out here alone. But it was like a fleeting thought and then gone. Now I got a thick head. So if a Bigfoot was sending me the signal, it wasn't getting in. It was just a thought, So I spent the rest of the week really uneventful. And my wife came back up and we had a great weekend. And by the way, the guy that owned the hotel said, you don't need to go to a campground. He says, I'll just run a power cord out there. You got enough water? I said, sure, I got plenty. Didn't charge me for the rest of the week. So just a really cool guy that turned me on to some wild stories. And one of the things he said to me that I thought was really interesting, he said, now, when you go down the trail, he says, do you ever see a rock that looks out of place? And I'm thinking, rock.
Right.
He's thinking rock. And he says, now, when you go down the road and you see one of those rocks and it looks out of place, stop. He goes, look around and see if another ATV kicked it up. And I said, why? He goes, because this was just his belief. He says, I think they sit off trail with a rock, and there's a lot of gravel mixed in with that hard shale rock that's up there. It's just real hard rock. Mm-hmm. And the grouse come out. And he said they throw the rocks at him and kill him. And I thought, So, of course, here I am going down the trails, not enjoying the view anymore, looking for rocks. Is this guy lying to me? But it was really funny. So beside that, I couldn't get it out of my brain about this. Why would a log that big and that heavy, and what animal could possibly, or human for that matter, could possibly take that size of a log, clear a 60-foot spruce tree, go completely across a river, which the spruce trees were probably 20 feet, 30 feet away from the actual river bank, and clear the river and thump so loud I felt the ground shake.
It's a story as old as Bigfoot itself. Hear it all the time. Rocks, big logs, getting hit with sticks or logs. Nothing really big. I've never heard of anybody getting hit and hurt. But I have heard of people getting hit, like in the backpack with small rocks, like coming in.
Yeah.
Two guys hunting together.
The only thing that, and again, this is all hindsight, is I was on a stretch of the trail, and it's like going down a concrete road. It really is. It's like you're on top of this bluff, right? And it's just nothing but bulk rock with trees right beside it. It's like going down a tunnel and you're on this just rock. And all of a sudden I heard a bang on the side of the ATV, on the plastic. I have a box. It's a Polaris Ranger, and it's got a box, kind of like a small pickup does. And I thought, well, I must have grabbed a rock and threw it through. There were no rocks. This was concrete. Again, didn't put it together until later, thinking, I won now. I can't say that something threw a rock at me, but it was so loud, and it seemed from the side, right outside my passenger door, right behind the cab. It sounded like that's where it hit.
Had you ever slung a rock up before and ever had that happen?
Not that big. I've slung a lot of rocks up, but it's kind of like, you ever been on a wet road and gravel sticks to your tires on your pickup, and you hear, when you get out on a tar road and it starts cleaning itself, you hear that, but not that loud.
Right.
And two, that's a brand new trail system. Polaris spent $25,000 investing in this trail system for this local club to expand it, put bridges in. They got beautiful bridges. The trails are done real nice. And it's so scenic. It's unbelievable. It's wild up there. I don't know if you've ever really looked at a map of the northeast corner. They call it the Arrowhead of Minnesota. There's nothing there. Then you go up into Canada, and for another 100 to 200 miles, there still isn't anything there. It's just all woods. It's, you've got the Boundary Waters canoe area on the border. Then north of that, bordered up to it, is Quetico National Park, which is another wilderness area that Canada has, and they're butted up against each other. So,
So what was the progression from that to Bigfoot to Sasquatch?
Me being crazy? Yeah. That
You're not crazy.
That
Guarantee you that.
But I'll tell you what, it wasn't fun. Because I got home and immediately started the internet search. And, thank God I had to work, because I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning, have to be to work by 4:45. So it didn't consume me that bad yet, but I couldn't get it out of my mind, and I told my wife about it, and she she never questioned it. You know how you'll get a look like, this is what happened, and they kind of roll their eyes kind of thing, like everybody else has that's heard this story. They just, really? Yeah. There was absolutely no trying to convince her. She believed me the first time I told her.
Well, you just confirmed everything she felt. Then when she made you turn around, right?
But none of us had put that together yet.
Well, not at the moment, I suppose, right?
Yeah. So you were asking, the timeline. I just started digging. And of course, the Finding Bigfoot, which is never ending. I won't even go there. And I even thought, these people are nuts. Some of the footage was so bad, it didn't even look like a creature. It looked like a guy with saggy jeans on going through the woods. And it did. It didn't look until until the Patty thing. I happened to find M.K. Davis. He was one of the very first ones where I went, I can hang my hat on some of this. And I'll never forget the first video. He was breaking down the Patty footage, and he had gotten some very clean footage. And he had something in his computer program where he could clean up a lot of stuff, where you could see this moving. You could see shoulder muscles moving. He found that cyst or whatever it was on the leg.
Avulsion.
Showed the calf muscles and all that. That's when I went, it's true. It's true. But that's out in California. What about northern Minnesota? Well, then I started. That's the more I got into it and started finding. You weren't online in 2018, were you? When did you come online?
March of 2018.
Okay, so you were.
Our first episode was March the 8th, I think, or March 8th. Yeah, March the 8th or March 18th. There's an 8 in there somewhere.
Yeah,
maybe it's the 18th. I don't know. It was March anyway.
That was before. That was before my event happened. I had never ran. You know, you do a Bigfoot search. I mean, it's going to take you 2 months to really find some credibility. And then Justin from
Mountain Beast.
Yeah, he was a godsend, because these are the types of people I was drawn to that weren't sensationalizing anything. It was more matter of fact. And it was, you know, he admitted right away he didn't know if he believed it or not. But what I like about Justin is he's so interesting and he's so solid. And what he backs up what he's trying to do, and he wants to see one.
Yeah, I think he believes now. I think he's been convinced at this point. Last time I talked to him, anyway, he had become convinced.
But I didn't know who to get a hold to. Then I had seen. Okay, now this happened in the very beginning of September, so now it's November. And I've got quite a bit of Bigfoot stuff under my belt on the internet searches. And I thought to myself, I ran into a Mike Patterson video and I saw him and I heard his vocalizations and another one that was just super interesting and not a sensationalist, you know.
Mike's got one of the clearest pictures I've ever seen, period.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have that, Danielle? Can I send that to you? The Mike Patterson? I can't hear you if you're trying to talk.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, send it to me and I'll put it up.
All right.
But you know, again, a godsend. You know, I thought some of the stuff was way out there. But the thing is who is I to judge? I saw a 5-foot log fly through the air, clearing trees, you know, and
what else could it be? You know, if you've got a log, a 6-inch green, because you said you heard that crackle pop, you know, that's not anything dead or dry. That's some fresh green stuff, and it's 5 feet long or whatever, flying through trees up over, you know, that's not the moose. I'm sorry. It's just there's nothing else. You know, there has to come a point where you're actually thinking logically about this, because they are out there. They do these things apparently. I mean, even though you didn't know that at the time, you had to get some confirmation at some point throughout there. And you know, you're talking about credible people. There's only a handful I can think of that I would send anyone to, and I'll tell you right now, it's Sasquatch Chronicles, Dixie Cryptid, Mountain Beast Mysteries, Steve Isdall, and Nance from Buckeye Bigfoot. Those are, as far as anybody putting out actual content and stories, having either someone come and tell their story or telling someone else's story for them. Those are, and there may be some more. If I'm forgetting somebody legit, I apologize. But those are the ones that come directly to mind.
But you know, here's a guy.
Scott Carpenter. He don't tell stories though. But.
I love Scott. I just love. It's so refreshing just to hear Scott talk. You know, just very matter of fact. Very
a lot of information from him.
A lot of information. But you know, your case was so different because you had a visual that rocked your world. I didn't get to see what through that. Then you get on the internet and you're on this website here, and this guy's telling this guy, you know, he's this and that, and he's wrong, and it's just all this infighting. Okay, then you go over and here's Justin, And he's just very, so I was all over the board trying to go, what's what here? What do you believe? And the MK Davis was the strongest piece of proof, which is the original, Patty footage. But for me, that was the strongest indicator, because he just point blank, he says, I'm not saying this is real, but look at the facts. I just laughed because it's so funny,
MK has a couple. Look at that fence climber.
Oh man,
that fence climber. It looks like that fence climber looks like a skinny guy, but that thing's 7.5 feet tall. There's no doubt, because he's got him standing up there. I think he's 5'8" or 5'9" on that. When he put beside it, it's 2 feet, easily 2 feet taller than him. An apex cone shaped head. It's all black. Come on now.
But see, that's where I was at about the middle of November, and my wife had to go to southern Minnesota on a trip, and I was going to stay home the whole weekend. So I stayed home, did a little researching, and the thought, that guy gave me that article, that ad, and I pulled it out of my wallet, and I thought, I'm going to call this guy. And so I called him up. Here he's a professor at the U of M. And I'm not going to get any clearer than that, because I don't know if he's, on the slide because he's at the U of M. But he's an investigator, and he's investigated that area that I was at a lot. And he told me point blank, he said, that's a hotbed up there. It's close enough to Lake Superior. It's close enough to any water source so that even if all the lakes and rivers froze, they still can get to the Lake Superior. It's not that far. And so we talked for about an hour. And again, he's never seen one. And I went, oh, okay. And, so I spent my lifetime listening to scientists, the government, the sheriffs, the DNR people, everybody trying to shame you into believing it don't exist. Mm-hmm. And that's how they do it. They shame you so that if you do bring it up, what happens? Oh, really? You're going to bring that up?
Right.
And even my close friends at work, I told a few of them about it. They gave me that look. And I looked right at one guy, and I got angry. And I usually don't do this, but I got angry. And I told him, I said, don't you believe in this? And he looked right at me. No. I didn't know enough at the time about game cam. I didn't know what I know now. How many people have tried and tried and tried with game cameras, and nobody's getting anything. And, when you're not knowledgeable about any of this, it does make sense, doesn't it? How come they're not catching it on a game camera?
Sure. Look, it's easy. It's easy to understand. I would have been in that same camp, probably was my whole life. If it's possible, it ain't around here because I would have seen it, that kind of. But I think for the people that, especially for the people that frequent the woods, that have never seen or experienced anything, they might have experienced something out of the ordinary, but they've explained it away. There's no reason for them to go there because that's just a bunch of, hooey and a bunch of crap. It doesn't take long looking into the subject at any, for lack of a better word, legit place to go for information before you start really thinking and considering it. And this is the thing that most people don't consider or what they do consider is that they put their own human limits onto this creature. That's why you see when someone makes a hoax, it's walking up through the woods and it's just kind of slow, kicking around back and forth, and you see it 20 feet out there, just kind of looking, it's just a guy in a suit. This is not the normal behavior for these creatures. The normal behavior for these creatures, when they step outside of that is when we actually are encountering them, is to remain hidden. It only seems obvious to me because, one, they do exist. So what are the answers? There are legitimate answers to these questions, Why don't we have a body? Why don't we have a really good image of one? Well, it's the nature of the creature itself. It's just, to me, it's born in them. I don't think it's anything that's taught. I think if they were taught this, they would make a lot more mistakes. I think it is born in them. Christopher Noel calls it the autistic savants, and it's kind of how they act. Very antisocial. You've probably been watched 100 times, but through some bushes, through one little hole. They just don't want to be discovered. They don't want anything to know they're there. And if you look at it, if you can look at it from that angle, if you can be truly objective enough, which is hard for anybody to do, and ask that question, then it's easy to understand why we don't have a body. Why would they leave one of their dead around for us to run into, and then be busted? A picture, a good picture. Most of the time when people see it, it's fleeting. If they had a camera with them, it would be hard to get a picture of one. Researchers that go out looking for them, these creatures, even if you're around them a lot, there's some distance. They're staying away from you. The closer you get, the further away they get.
Sure.
That's why I think, to me, the best anybody can do is to habituate, to actually start some kind of Pavlovian response from these creatures, like throwing apples, feeding them something in a place, and doing it continuously until you earn enough trust to where, hey, as soon as you pull up, they're getting in place waiting for their little treat. The Zaskis did it in Florida.
I am not. I'm in your camp. I don't want nothing to do with these things.
Yeah, I'm not interested in doing that either. So Mark seems to think that I'm going to be doing that with him. So apparently I am going to be doing that. So.
Well, they put it this way. All the guys that I told about this at work have ATVs. They all go up and camp and ride. I told them, I need one of you guys to come up with me. I want to go back to where this all happened. I want to see, how far, if I can see where that branch got broke and how far that actually got thrown. I want to go back there, but I ain't going alone. None of them will go. None of them will go. The best ATV ride in the most beautiful place I've ever been to. None of them will go, but they don't believe it. That's just.
Well, did you ask them? Ask them what could have done that. Then what could have done that?
They have no answer. They have no answer. Well, a moose could get, not that. If a moose had a neck about 16 feet long, maybe, but no, they don't do that.
Did you see a moose?
No. All I know is I doing all my research. Now I found, Bigfoot Odyssey, and I've spent probably a little over a year wanting to call you.
Really?
And I hear, a Kevin Saunders story. That's a story. You don't want to hear this, and then, I grew up a musician. I'm not afraid to be in public. I've also done a lot of public speaking as far as I worked for an insurance company and did presentations. I've never done this. And my stomach was upset before I came up here today. Think of that.
We appreciate it. We really do appreciate it, because we tell people all the time, you don't have to have this epic encounter to talk about having an experience. To me, this is just as important, because this is more likely to happen to someone.
Yeah.
And if you're out there, that's what we want you to consider. That's all we ask anyone, whether you believe it or not. It's hard. It's hard to force something into your paradigm that's never been in it before, and once you see it and you don't really have a choice, it really affects you.
Yeah. Because
not only do you have to push it into everything going forward, but everything you've ever thought. You got to, going back.
See, that was the whole thing for me. I heard people say things like, it will change how you look at life itself.
Sure.
And it has. It really has for me. It ruined a lot of things. It opened my eyes to a lot of other things. Um, you know, getting back to my story, after I talked to that guy, well, during that conversation, I brought up my wife's reaction. And out of everything we talked about, he thought that was the most interesting thing. The log flying didn't seem to interest him like that. He goes, really? And he goes, did you ever ask her about it? I said, no. He goes, ask her what was going on. And I said, the only thing I did is when we were on the trail, I said, why? And she says, I don't know. I just don't want to go here. So I didn't push it. So anyway, she had gone in southern Minnesota. She came back and, she sat down and we talked for a while. And finally I looked at her. I said, I want to ask you something. And she calls it the Ho Chi Minh Trail. That's her name for this trail now. And I said, do you remember when you were going down the Ho Chi Minh Trail? Yeah. Okay. You stopped me. What was going on? And you'd swear to God she saw one, the way she described to me what she felt. She goes, I don't know. She goes, all I know is there was a voice inside of me that said, don't go any further, turn around, get out of here. And I went, really? And so she had seen some videos of, people call it mind talk, which I have a hard time with mind talk, but that's just me.
Me too.
Could be more of an instinct thing though. Jimmy Barr had exactly the same thing when he went out back to do that whoop. He stepped a few, steps, and something in him said, don't step another step. Just go back. He said it wasn't mind speak, it was just something in him telling him that. I've heard it.
Always listen to that.
But
anybody watching this, always listen to your gut.
What is floating through the air that can get into a woman who isn't even driving the damn ATV to just freak out all of a sudden? And she has no pattern. I've almost laid down my Harley and she didn't react like she reacted that day. Thank God Harley's got a gray frame, and I just hit the throttle and it picked itself back up. And she didn't freak out. She freaked out that day. What is it? See, that's the most interesting thing about this is what could cause that? Maybe guardian angel. Maybe God sent her a message. Don't go any further. I don't know. But she was convinced we're not going any further. And I was convinced she was convinced.
Right.
Because I can argue, to my own fault. I mean, she gives me crap about it all the time. I got a black belt in arguing.
Well, I can't argue. My wife is a nurse, has been an RN for a long time, and when it comes to that, she becomes Nurse Ratchet. And yeah. So if you're watching, honey, I love you.
Well, when I
say Florence Nightingale when I get home.
When I grow up, I want to be just like you. Because I'll tell you, some of the things, but I mean, just so you kind of are getting to understand, a little bit about me. I'd argued that point. 10 years earlier, I would have argued I wouldn't have listened to her. Oh, there's nothing down here going to hurt you, and I kept going. And the look on her face, I knew. Yeah, you're not, don't do it. So I turned around and went back. And again, I just left it there. But then when she explained it to me, I showed her a bunch of videos about people basically saying the same thing. They're hiking down a trail and they have this feeling. Or they feel like they're being watched and stuff like that.
Did she mention ever having that feeling before at any other time through her life?
No.
What about you throughout life? Could you think back to any lived experience that you thought was strange, bizarre, and you couldn't explain that you couldn't explain aside from this?
Couldn't explain?
I'm not all here today.
Yeah, I grew up in a really dysfunctional family, so a lot of my a lot of my attention was spent on reading people, so I didn't get the kicked out of me, you know.
Right.
And so I never going out in the woods was paradise, and I loved being alone. And to this day, I'm uncomfortable now. I mean, it's not that I won't, because I will go, but I'm not night riding. I'm just not going to do it. You know, here's another thing: is I'm doing all this investigating, and my Ranger, it's 1,000 cc. It'll do, or it's a 900. It'll do 62 miles an hour. So in my brain, I'm thinking, and your show wrecked this for me. I'm thinking, well, you know, if I look in my mirror and here steps a Bigfoot, or he's ahead of me, man, I'm gone 60 miles an hour. Well, guess what? Some guys have been seen, you know, been going down the road, like one guy on a motorcycle, and he's doing 45, and here's a Bigfoot running right beside him. And I went, well, that ruined that deal, you know. There ain't no getting.
Wes Germer started doing these shorts, and I really like those little shorts he's doing on YouTube. And there was a farmer that was one of the first ones he did, and he filmed this thing. You know, you can see this dark figure, and it's in the back of this field. It looks like it's 200 yards away, but that thing is moving. There is no way it's a person.
No,
in my mind, impossible that someone is running that fast. This thing is hooked up and going, and I don't think that's as fast as these creatures can move. Every time we hear it, I say every time, the majority of the time, the word preceding it is cartoon fast, like puff of dust. Gone.
Well, have you seen the MK Davis? It's a closed caption camera that was on a barn facing out towards the pasture. And it's out there, and the cattle start running full bore. And behind it at warp speed is a figure. You can't tell, you can't prove it's a Bigfoot. Cattle are kind of easy to spot. It gained on those cows. How fast can a cow run wide open? 30? 25?
I don't know.
Faster than a human being.
Faster than a human. I think the fastest people are clocked somewhere around 27, 28 miles an hour, something like that.
This thing went across that pasture. It looked like you were watching a car on the highway go by. That fast. So that wrecked everything. I just figured, well, if I can just stay in my safe little ATV and, you know, get out once in a while and see what I can see, and it's wild. You know, sometimes I have fleeting thoughts, so I'll go from this subject to that subject. But one thing I wanted to tell you too about this guy that owned the bait shop. He told me that in the last 20 years, it's a shoo-in to get a black bear up there. As far as you draw the permit, it's as good as going to happen. He said the permits that are being issued because of the counts are down to less than a third that they're issuing because somehow, some way, the black bear are disappearing up there. And then you look at Twin City metro area, 100-mile radius, the black bears they're seeing all the time. What's going on up there? I mean, I can't say that. I know bears, you know, according to some of the stories I've heard, that bears and Sasquatch don't get along. And I don't know if it's, you know, because they're young, you know, they're protecting their young from a bear or whatever, but they don't like each other or something, like, you know, that's what I've heard. But isn't that odd? Nothing else has changed. We haven't been through like a 10-year drought and all the berries dried up. We haven't been through
That is odd.
It's really odd.
But Mike, as much of a shame, I guess, as it is that you've lost something that you really enjoy, that you just don't want to do anymore. What I find, and this is the case for me, most of the time, people end up finding something else that they enjoy just as much. So it's this proceed with caution when you do attitude. You're not as carefree, I suppose, as you were before. But
No.
it's just like throwing a Bengal tiger to me out there. My chances of running into a Bengal tiger just went from 0 to 1 in 1,000. I'm going to be a little bit more alert and probably a little less carefree now. Going into a place. But that's usually the case. People that, for me, I didn't go back in the woods. I didn't go back in the woods at all. And I haven't been very many times, unless it's to film something, in the last 14 years. 10 years, I didn't go in any woods.
Yeah,
Not even the edge of the woods.
This year, I didn't even camp. Part of it is I bought a house. I told you I moved over to Western Wisconsin. And there's been a lot of things to do to this. But still, my passion is to get out there and see what see the sights, see what you can see.
Sure.
And I just don't, I don't have the drive I had before. I would have made time 4 years ago. I would have made time. But the one of my fears is, of course, this is just fears, is what if one shows up at my door? You hear it all the time. Well, they followed me home.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want nothing to do with this. Okay, if someone said, I'm going to show you a Bigfoot, but he's a quarter mile away, I'd say, okay, I'll look. Other than that, I have no interest at all.
Problems tonight. We've got a great encounter tonight and a great guest coming from Ontario. It's Ben. How are you doing, Ben?
Good, thanks. How are you guys?
We're good, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Now, you've had a couple of encounters and other little bits that we'll get into, but you were a kid when this happened to you.
Yeah.
But before you start that, tell me where you were at with Bigfoot at that point. How old were you?
Well, at the first incident, I was say 15, and it would be like in 1984, around that time, right? And I knew nothing about Bigfoot. Like I said, I knew about apes, of course, but something like Gigantopithecus or something like that. That was from the furthest thing from my imagination. I didn't even have that mental capacity at that point. So I don't know. I do remember, like I said, the one Steve Austin thing, that one episode where he fought the Bigfoot, $6 million man. And, that's the only thing I would think of as a Bigfoot. I would think that I would see one in the woods. I knew that we could see bears because where we live, Ontario, is there's a lot of black bears here. And especially when you get up towards where my camp was, up near Algonquin Park, and that they have a very, very high bear population. And it's not uncommon to go to the dump and you'll see bears there. And quite frankly, people do it when they take their garbage. So they'll bring the kids along and show them the bears and take pictures, and it's like a family outing. But to see what I saw, I don't I knew that wasn't a bear,
Right.
Yeah,
so you have experience with seeing them.
Well, no, he was, when I seen him, he was probably 10 feet away from me. His eyes and my eyes were 10 feet apart. And he was huge. I just seen mostly his head, because the whole story is I heard this thing walking around. I didn't know if it was a bear. And well, I might as well get back to the thing. Okay, we were all camping on the point. Right? So all of us kids were camping. We were 15 years old. We were all in tents. We were camping, doing the hot dog and s'mores thing and ghetto blaster, cranking Van Halen, and having a good time. You know what I mean? So we had gotten to bed, and like the fire had gone out, and it was pretty dark. And about 3 a.m, I just kind of got jarred awoke, you know, and it sounded like someone was dropping a safe on the ground, like just boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, that's a big bear or something. And so I started to just lay quiet and everything will be fine. It'll just go away, because we weren't dirty campers. There wasn't stuff all over the place. It was put in sealed coolers and stuff so they might smell it, but we were trying to be as careful as possible. Even being as like kids, our parents said, like, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, like, don't bring bears into the camp. And so anyway, I finally got the courage up to wake my buddy up, and I said, there's something walking around. And he goes, oh, it's probably a bear. And I was like, well, yeah, but it's big. It's big. And he was like, well, what are you doing? I don't know. Like, so he kind of had the cojones to look out, and he just unzipped the tent, and he goes, holy, and he jumped back, and like he just said he saw a big bear. Like, he just said, it's a big bear. And I'm like, oh my God. And like, we didn't know what to do. So I was, at this time, your heart's just pounding out of your chest. You're a little kid. You don't know what to do. You're just like, where's my dad? Like, dad would know what to do. I kind of just said, like, oh, we got to make noise or something. I know that will scare them away, and we got to start a fire. And he's like, what? And it's like, so I just said, let's go. And I just screamed. I opened up the tent, and I ran out of the tent screaming and yelling. And I was partially crying, and I knew that the water was right there. So if something ever happened, I just would run into the water, and like, not to be rude, I'd have to outrun 7 people. There's going to get one of us, right? So I just ran out of the tent. I saw movement, and then that woke everybody up. We got out of the tent, and then like, we're going, it's a bear, there's a bear. We got to start a fire. So we got the fire started and started it going. And at this point, I had to relieve myself. So I was like, okay, I can see a little bit. So I walked over to this tree, and I was going to number 1, and as the fire got bigger, I could see more, right? And I could see something beside this tree and in between like the bush, and it was like kind of down a bit, but it was still at my level, and I could see it not moving, but I could see the darkness moving, kind of thing, like the darkness in the shadow moving. And then it got brighter and brighter and brighter, and I just turned and I looked, and it literally turned and looked at me, like with its big, huge, they looked like lion's eyes. They were so reddish gold, and like his head was 2 feet tall. Like, I'm starting to shake, but like, he was big, like he was really big. So I didn't even stop what I was doing. I just turned, I was like urinating all over myself, and I'm running away from, and I said, that's no effing bear. I said, let's get out of here. That's no effing bear. Let's go. And I ran and grabbed, in one stride, I grabbed the anchor and jumped into the boat with my weight, and it smashed the boat off of the rocks. And I'm trying to start the boat, and I'm crying, but I'm trying to save people, and I'm going like, oh, we got to go back to shore. So I'm just like, oh, like, and I just knew that this thing was right there, and I just going, get in the boats, and like, we just all got in the boats and got out away from shore, and we started the motors, and they're just like, what was it? I said, I don't know, just a big black man or something. Like,
You're very brave. You were very brave, though, to keep it together, to get your friends in the boat,
Oh, I was scared. Like, I was scared. Like,
Yeah.
Like I didn't mean to do what, like I just jumped in and grabbed the boat, and I was trying to take off. Like I just, well, okay, I gotta save everybody. We have to get away from here. Like, so I just,
Right.
like, I got the motor started and then got towards. I was like, just everybody get in the boat. Just everybody get in the boat. And I just hit it reverse, and we just all had, like, at that point we had a couple boats out, and we were driving towards the camp. And then it's really dark at night, because it wasn't one of those nights where the moon lights up, and like up here the moon lights up the forest, like you can see almost with like a flashlight, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You can see really well, especially when the light's going across the lake. It just lights it right up, you know. So we worked our way back to the camp, and everybody just kept saying, was it a bear? I said, no, it's not. It wasn't a bear. Like, that was no bear. And they just kept, oh, you're crazy. That was a bear. And like, at this point, we started to relax, because we were away from the danger kind of thing, right? We were getting near the camp, and we could see our parents, our trailers, and, you know, everything, right? So we started to kind of relax, and we started to joke about it, and I just kind of put it away. And then I tried to talk to my dad about it, and said, like, do you think there is something like this in the woods? Or like I didn't even know how to describe it. I just said, how could a big gorilla be in the woods?
Mm.
You know,
And
like, I'm
how
15 years old.
right, and considering how much you've seen bears, you know that,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, you
like,
obviously know what they look like. You know very well what a bear looks like, and so to
yeah.
be able to differentiate, you know, is quite clear. You know, the bears have ears on their head. Like, there's lots of different, you know, even their
Well,
movement.
just the snout. You can see the
Right.
snout. Like, and plus a bear's hair. They almost look like they're manicured. You know, like they look like a teddy bear. They're so perfect. You know, their hair is just on their face, and their eyes are tiny, tiny. This thing had eyes as big as my fists. Like,
And
its
what?
mouth, you could have put a bowling ball in it.
Oh wow!
And its
really
face was
wide.
so big. Oh yeah, like those. I watched a couple of the things that Daniela does now with the drawing thing, and it's kind of close to what I saw, but like more his. I don't know if it was he or she, but its head was huge. Like, its head was just enormous. Like, it had hair down the side of its face and like around its chin, and then it looked like it had no hair, almost like a Fu Manchu thing, and then like a really tall space between its lip, and then those golden eyes. And then when he turned and looked, because he just turned and looked at me, like, I always think that too, is how did he know I wasn't there? He had to have known I was there.
Mm.
I was 10 feet away. He saw me walk right in front of him.
You've just no idea how long it could have been there. Could have been there for quite a while.
Watching.
Just watching.
Well, I also think that these things aren't by themselves. They're never by themselves.
Okay.
Like, that, even if they tried, I think, I'm not saying that from experience. I'm saying that from all the videos that I've watched, and just kind of gathering little bits of information, is that I don't think that they would travel alone. There'd be at least two of them. Just one to watch each other's back, you know? They're such higher intellect than what we even give them credit for.
Yeah, you hear that a lot. And how long, like you said, it was just 10 feet away. That's not far at all. Like, that is.
Its eyes were literally 10 feet. It was like where I was doing my business, like, I was kind of elevated, you know, so there's a little bit of a walk down a little bit, and then there was a tree right there, and then there was a bush and stuff. Like, it started to be where it starts to get thick, because where we camp on the point, it's like it's an old abandoned mine, and it's like it flooded one time from the one lake. The river flooded in and it just caved it in to that one spot. And like where the points are, it's all rocks and dirt, like just dirt. Like it's almost like grass can't grow there or something. I don't know.
Okay.
And there's a big escarpment, like it's about 70 feet tall and it travels for about 100 meters. And there's big holes back in the forest that are like caves back from the mines. And
Oh,
you can see fish in there. Like, so there's obviously underground or the tunnels, waterways, so that the fish can get back in there. Right.
was the eyes, was it lit up with the fire glow? Is that why it was orange? Okay.
Like I seen the shine off its eyes and it looked like they were gold, you know, like a dark, like a really dark orange, like really dark orange. And then like around when it turned and looked, like there was a bit of white there, but it's like its pupil and that part were like enormous, like the size of my fist. Like
but definitely
two big eyes.
Okay, but definitely more human looking.
Oh yeah, but okay. like with monkey or ape thrown in there, you know, like no, not monkey.
Okay.
Almost like a primitive person, like because it had the characteristics of primate, I guess, but I guess that's because of the skin. Like the skin was so dark, like really like black almost.
Okay.
But you could see it shine, like the fire shining off the wrinkles and like I'm gathering this within like 5 seconds because it took me a second to see it, and I was like, what the heck, what, and then I turned and looked, and then I just booked it, right? Like,
right.
I didn't stick around and say, hey, how you doing? My name's, you know, so and so. You want to have a hot dog? Like,
right. Can I have an autograph? Right.
We got.
Did he have a heavy? Like, could you see the heavy brow ridge? Where they're like you were really close. It sounds like you could make out details enough to do one of those drawings. It almost sounds like with Larry, too.
It was a broad. But he had a little bit of forehead, eh? Like it wasn't just a big bump. It was like a really, like his eyes were sunken in, or she or it's whatever. Eyes were sunken in, but like, and it was almost like that ridge, like gave its eyes some shade, you know. And then there was like a little space of forehead, and then just massive head, like all the way down and hair down the side of its face, and like I said, like a beard that came around underneath its chin, and like and across, and like the lips went right across its face, and its mouth was closed, like it didn't. I don't like it. Obviously, wasn't trying to breathe. It was fine. Like it was that, you know, August, September time of year, so it was kind of cool. So it's.
No expression on its face, really.
No, like a blank, like blank as a person in a jury, you know, like just
interesting.
It just the way it looked, like it kind of cocked its head, and then just turned its eyes and just kind of like, yeah, I see you, and then Yahoo! I'm out of here. Like I did, like Bugs Bunny. Poof! There was a little puff of smoke, and just I was like.
But you guys, everyone heard it. You know the weight of it.
My buddy in the tent did. My buddy in the tent did. Like this, and then they were. That's why I'm surprised that no one woke up from it walking around. Because that's what woke me up. It was like literally just vibrating me on the ground, like, and I'm like, that's something really heavy. Like like we don't got grizzly bears here. That's a big. It just felt like wham, wham, like poof, poof,
with some force and weight.
Like there's some weight and like transfer of the muscles throughout the leg, like boosh, boosh, boosh. Boosh, you know, and like I said, I was elevated from it, and I think it was literally crouched down, and it had to have been because its head was so big it wouldn't have fit on like 5.5 feet. Like that thing probably when it stood up, I bet you was 8 or 9 feet tall, 10 feet tall.
Oh wow. How could you estimate the weight of it approximately?
No, because he was hidden by the tree and he was hidden by the bushes, and there was just like a V beside the tree and the bush, and his whole. I don't know why I keep saying he. I just think because he just looked like a he. He looked like a big dude, like, and it was his head, and then I seen like the top of his shoulder, his top of his chest, and it was still really dark. It's almost like the rest of him just disappeared into the darkness. Like he was so black.
Okay.
You could see it, but you couldn't,
Couldn't make it out. I understand. I understand completely. I've had experiences up here in Alaska, and like when I was in my tent and feeling whatever was stomping around, yeah, it's like there's some weight to that. And bears are big in Alaska, but yeah, when they've got that where the ground is shaking like that, and I've been charged by a bear, and like I'm and moose, so I'm quite familiar with the ground shaking from these giant animals. But yeah, when there's something extremely large, it's a bit unnerving.
The weight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just knew that wasn't a person. I knew it wasn't a person walking around. The only thing I thought was that's one big bear, like really big.
Yeah,
or a moose. Like I never even thought of that. So like, we have moose up there, but I just thought bear, and that's what. Because put it this way: anytime that we've gone out there, that's the only thing that we're really worried about is ever running into a bear or a mom and her cubs, or we may see a bobcat, but you can yell at those and they'll take off. And same with the bear, if you yell at them, they will take off for a second, and then if they're curious or even rabid, if they're rabid, then they'll come back.
Yeah, there's certain behaviors. Want to come across
even a rabid raccoon will charge you.
So was there did you pick up any smells or anything like that?
No, I was going to say that. It was like I always hear people say that they really stink and stuff. I never smelled anything. Like I did smell like fish, but I kind of attributed that to the water, because like we had been fishing, there's, whatever. It's around there. When you're at the water that close, you can smell the fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like even like a black bear will smell, especially if they spend a lot of time around the dump, they'll start to smell like the dump. Mm-hmm. And that's especially how we can smell them, downwind. They can smell us as well. We can smell them, But mm-hmm. No, like I didn't smell anything. I don't know if that's maybe the fresh water. Like say how they say the skunk ape, they call it a skunk ape because it stinks. But look at its habitat. It lives in mossy, swampy, dirty area. Like this up here is clean lakes. So really, a Sasquatch could have a bath if it wants.
You're right. The habitat could have a lot to play with how it smells, or yeah, definitely.
And that it could also be a defense mechanism. I don't know. Like maybe.
I was going to say it could be like a gland of some sort. And when they're nervous or when they're trying to mark an area, or I don't know, but for one reason maybe.
Or get your attention, like to get your attention. Like that's like when I heard it, when that one time when I heard it scream at us, right? There was no direction of it. It just was everywhere. Like it was like a rock concert level loud, but just everywhere, just this loud scream, and just it went right through you, like made your arms like like it makes my hair stand up on my arms right now just thinking that this just was piercing. That was years later after the experience. Like we were walking down the trail one time and the thing just, it wasn't a bear.
So what happened when you realized it was Bigfoot?
Right.
When did that happen?
It was actually, I started digging into the subject probably like 15 years ago, I guess. Like my brother-in-law, he likes to what's it,
Cryptozoology.
like the podcast, the crypto podcasts, and Bigfoot Chronicles or something like that.
Oh, Sasquatch Chronicles.
So he would always listen to these podcasts in his truck because he was a truck driver. And then we were just sitting around one time and he just said to me, like, what do you think of Bigfoot? And I said, well, I seen one. And he said, he just lost his mind. Like, he's what? And I'm like, yeah. And I explained the whole story to him and he's like, are you serious? And I was like, yes, man. I swear on my life I seen that. I swear on my life, I'm telling you guys, I swear on my life I seen what I did. I know I did. And it's like you can't remove that from your brain. So like he just said, well, you should look here and look there. And I started getting into Todd Standing and even Sasquatch Ontario and, you know, Scott Patterson Scott Carpenter. And then and recently you guys, and, you know, there's a lot of, crap on there. Like there's, especially around the time when they released that new update for that Bigfoot game. Anytime you put Bigfoot in there, it's just guys playing that game, and you can't even try and filter through any of the information, you know?
It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult nowadays to know.
Well, people are making fun of it too. That's why I even said to Kerry, I feel reluctant to say anything because even my own friends, my dad to this day thinks I'm crazy. You know,
That's a shame.
Says, you know, it's like you just saw a bear. I'm like, yeah, okay. So what? Like after a given amount of time, you just kind of go, yeah, you know what? I'm just not gonna say anything anymore. And then I started, like I said, like doing some research, and I'm going, that's exactly what I saw, and like I'm thinking, I thought it was such a big thing out west and maybe down south, like in Bluffs Creek area or in the Skunk Ape area, or even like in the Himalayas with the abominable snowman. I just never ever thought it would be possible. Well, it was me being ignorant because there's definitely enough food to sustain a primate that big, an animal that big. Like there's tons of deer here, there's turkeys, there's tons of everything. You know, we have controlled hunting season. It's not just free game. There's tons and tons and tons of food for them to eat here.
And that's important, you know, to like determining if the area is even able to sustain something of that magnitude.
Yeah. And I think in different areas, just like they have different personalities. Like maybe I came across one that was curious as more of opposed to get your stuff and get out of here kind of thing. You know, he was more curious because literally when I first looked at him, he was just looking at them start the fire. It was almost like he was, wow, that's really cool. You know, like look at that.
Okay. So
and then he
more
just turned his head.
Intrigued with the fire and what you guys were doing.
His gaze was on the fire. Like
interesting.
But that's why I say too, he had to have known I was there. He seen me there, but he was just so focused on the fire, and maybe he was kind of caught off guard and didn't think like, okay, the whole camp's gonna light up really quick when those things start to catch, and then the gas, like we throw a little bit of gas on there, and it just lights right up, right?
I mean, it's quite mesmerizing, isn't it, to watch fire or water or something like that, and you can imagine.
Peaceful.
This thing,
unless it's your house. I mean,
obviously, your car or anything like that.
A campfire is very serene and peaceful.
Yeah.
And
I like to have
we put the copper tubes in there and like the piece of garden hose, and it makes it all go funky colors and stuff.
Oh,
Ooh.
right. Yeah. So what time of year was this?
Like August, September, like
Right.
in
Okay.
the late time of the year.
Yeah.
Like getting near the end of the season, like because our season runs from like May until Thanksgiving weekend, and our Thanksgiving weekend in Canada is like the first weekend of October, right? So it's in that like it's not like October 10th, October 11th, in there, right? So the season runs like the camping season runs from that period,
Okay. Quite
and that's
similar
why.
to Alaska.
Well, I think most parks are like that because unless you're going to pay more and like and have a 4-season trailer and live there all year, I guess you could. But like in the trailers that we had, they were like it was a nice spot, but your furnace would be constantly going, because it gets minus 25, minus 30 Celsius up here in the winter. And like a 3-season trailer is not going to cut it.
Mm-mm.
So they just more or less shorten the season down so everybody can, have a good time. But you're here for a good time, just not a long time. And I guess it gives the camp owner time to do repairs and this and that too, right?
So when you finally work out what this thing is, how are you processing that then?
Well, I still feel the same way now as I did back then. I think if the thing wanted to hurt us, it would already have done so. So I'm not too afraid to go into the woods, but yeah, I do tend to be a lot more observant, and I'll never go in the woods alone. Never. Like even during the day. Screw that.
Yeah. Have you seen anything, or have there been things that you've noticed that make you think there could be Bigfoot out there?
Oh yeah. Like that's why I say even too, like times when the one time it yelled at us, that was years after that incident. And then all the years that afterwards I was up there, I would sometimes take my fishing boat, that little boat, like basically that was the one my dad let me use because he didn't want to let me take the bass boat out. But sometimes I got to take the big boat out and I'd take the electric motor and I would just cruise around really quietly around all the shoals and stuff. And there's tons of times that I felt like I was being stared at, because you can do it to anybody. Go out and stand and stare at someone for like a second. They'll turn and look at their head at you.
Yeah.
That's a creepy feeling, isn't it? Especially out in the woods and you just can't see.
Well, and you just want to fish. It's like, I just want to fish. Leave me alone. Like I've heard of the whole thing too, the rock throwing and all that, but I've never had that.
Okay.
And I wish that we could have went back and even seen if there was footprints or something, right? But we were too scared. We never went there for the rest of the year, and then probably until the year after that,
So
And
when you did go back, did you have a good look round? Was there any sign of anything?
yeah, but it's so rocky and dirt. Like it's not like it's packed dirt,
Mm-hmm.
It's not really loose dirt that would leave an impression. It's just really hard compressed and rocks all underneath it. Like it's all rocks all around the shore, and there's rocks everywhere, like all through like the woods and like the escarpments there. But we never, like I was, even back at that point, I was probably say 16 or 17, and with the years coming up to that, it almost like I blocked it out. It's just like okay, I seen what I seen. And, it wasn't that I doubted myself. It was just like, okay, it was a one-off thing. I seen something. I don't know.
Life carries on, doesn't it? You get busy, you do things, and these things just go to the back of your head.
Well, I mean, especially at that age, I was a kid. I was, 15, so I was like, I was more interested in riding my BMX bike and trying to meet a girlfriend and this whatever, right?
Right.
Like that, it always stayed in the back of my head. And like I say, like even to this day, like I feel really unnervous or really unnervy in the woods. Like I just, because I know what could be there.
What's out there
I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm just afraid of the stuff in the dark.
in the dark. Yeah, I had the same experience where when I saw it at a young age, I had thought like it was just some massive person. And it, even though when, for whenever time it finally that disconnect cleared up, you look back and it's kind of amazing how quickly you can just blow something like that off and just move on.
Yeah. Well, it's like you say too, I guess, like hindsight,
Mm-hmm.
Like I can think back like, yeah, there was that time that we heard that, or like, remember we seen that dark figure run through the park that one time, and was that a person or was that a Bigfoot?
Right. You really
like,
start questioning.
Like especially when you don't know nothing, if you've never seen one, your brain's gonna automatically dismiss it as something that's more logical, as opposed to one of these things, right? Like,
right.
We do it like, when you hear something in the night maybe and you think, what's that? And you don't want to go to sleep, but you end up falling asleep, don't you? And you're usually forgetting about it by the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how easy it is to put something in a box and deal with it and move on,
I'm a Christian, I'm a God-fearing man, and I believe fear is only fear itself. If you believe in God and think he, loves you and know that he's going to look after you, then you have nothing to fear. If you're going to get, my sister she says this thing, oh, when it's your time, it's your time. I said, no, that's ridiculous. It's not that way, kind of, so to speak. When it's your time, it's your time. It's just when you die, that's when the time it happens. I believe that you keep a good faith, and God will look after you. He doesn't let the bad people suffer or die. Sometimes there's things that happen that we can't really justify what his reason for, but only he knows why. So if you take this fear with you everywhere you go, even after an incident that I had, it's just going to ruin your life. You got to stay strong with yourself and with God, and just believe in God. Or believe in your own God, whatever it be, Buddha, Muslim, everybody's believing in being nice to each other and protecting each other. And love goes farther than hate. So
that certainly does.
Definitely.
That's
beautiful.
beautiful.
So you had another encounter after that then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were 20, I guess. Like I was around like 20, 21. And at that point we stopped, when I got to 18 and got out of school and was working and stuff, like I stopped really going up to the park every weekend, right? Where we did since we were 8, we'd go up every weekend, or family and my cousins, and there was just like, that's what we did, right? So when I got older, it was very sparse in between. So the one time we did go up, I said, let's take a walk back in the woods, right? Like walk down the trail. So we did, and it was pretty much uneventful until we were on our way back, and we just heard this scream. And like it before the scream was even over, all my other friends had already taken off and they were running down the trail. And I was just like, holy crap. And then I started running too. And instead of even running to the end of the thing and going around the fence and through the field, we just got to the corner of the fence, hopped this huge barbed wire fence, like, because we didn't care. We just wanted to get back into the park. And like this scream was so loud, it was like someone took an air horn right into your ear, like just like he was just pissed right off or something. And like, how you hear a dog bark, or you can hear, like I've heard coyotes yipping in the woods and stuff. It's kind of directional. You know what I mean? You can go, it came from there. This came from everywhere, like everywhere. You could just hear it. It sounded like the best Dolby system in the world, and it was just all around it. Like 7.1, you know, it was just all over the place.
What does that mean then? Do you think he was quite high up and able
Like
this sound to travel?
I think the escarpment too kind of helps it. He was probably over by that escarpment, and he was yelling off that escarpment, and it just reflected right back at us, just wham, you know. And because there's this escarpment in the trail, like when it's off the bit, and there's water there where it flows underneath the ground, and it's about 70 feet tall, and it runs about 100 meters. And like we as kids would go in there and echo off of it and stuff like that. And we were coming just towards the end of it, and we're going to be turning towards the park, and that's when just this loud scream. And like I said to Kerry, it was almost like it knew, because the 4 of us were the 4 of the 8 that were there that night. And it was almost like, that's the feeling I got. It was like that thing knows it's us. And I, like, at that point I was older, and I even said, like, to them, I went, see, that wasn't a bear. Remember, just like before, that wasn't a bear. And they're like, oh, you're crazy, ha ha ha, you know, smoking one, whatever, yeah, ha, whatever. No, like that. You guys heard that. You guys heard that and felt that too. Like, you can't say that was any animal that we have in any book in the archives. No.
So did you guys discuss it at all? You know, like, other than joking around, like them joking and ribbing one another, but like, did you actually discuss it and say, what was that? Like,
I tried on different occasions. Like, even that night, it was like, guys, like that was so loud, man. Like that sounded like a lion on times 10, you know. They're like, it was probably close, and they were mating or something. And I was, whatever, you know. And that's what I've had to deal with. And, you know, like, sure, they say, it was really loud. It was just, they snuffed it off.
But they were obviously terrified from it.
Well, yeah, they ran before I did. You know, they were already like 50 feet. Like, so how am I going to outrun them now? They've got a head start on me. So, you know, they were already like way down and I just turned and looked. I was like, oh, okay, brain, make my feet move, like start running, you know? So I just took off and then started running with them. Right. And like, even like my parents, we talked to our parents about it, and they're just like, oh, it's the coyotes, or it's like, you know, bears. Or
did you ever have a conversation later on in life about like that first experience with your parents?
This is the first time, besides talking to Kerry about it, that I've talked about it. Wow. Besides my brother-in-law, because he passed like 6 years ago from cancer. And he was the only guy that I could talk to about it, you know, because he believed in it. Like, he always did the Sasquatch Chronicles and all that stuff. And so he would listen to me, and, you know, I would just show him different videos, and it was my way of getting it out, right? Because I'd already told my story. I didn't have to keep retelling it to him. And he believed me. He said he did. But, you know,
did you,
like, that's why it makes me laugh, is people say, oh, I wish I could see one. No, you don't. No, you do not. No, you don't. Like, put it blunt, like I don't know, like, they can be very aggressive, I would think. And it wouldn't take much of them for them to rip you apart or make you disappear, you know, like.
Had you had some awareness though of them, how do you think that would have changed your experience?
Well, if I would have known what I seen, I definitely would have wanted to go back, and like with my dad, it's like, just think, you're coming with me. You're going to check for footprints or something. or just anything. Let's go and take a look. Maybe it took a
Right.
poop. Maybe it took a poop. I don't know. Like, let's go up and take a look. But we were so afraid. And my dad thought, like I said, he still thinks I'm crazy. Like he does not believe me.
So everyone that night, the parents, when you guys came back unexpectedly, a little frustrated, and
3 in the morning. Yeah.
3 in the morning, everybody just blew it off as it must have been a bear. And
Yeah, and they're it's Saturday night, so they've been up probably partying and stuff. So it's just like, get in here and just go to bed. Like, it's like, no, there's something like they all thought it was a bear, but I know what I've seen. I know
what you saw.
If there was a bear standing there, I would have said there was the bear. If there was something there that I was like, that's not a bear, that's what I seen, and it wasn't a bear.
That's a shame.
It was way bigger than a bear. Way bigger than a bear.
Yeah. And it
Its
didn't
head
have the
was like bigger than a grizzly bear's. It was like that size of a head. It was just huge.
right, and its characteristics were definitely not that of a bear.
No, the black skin. That's because I was looking. I'm going. I'm like, at first I'm going, is that a bear? And it's right there. And then I'm going, that's not a bear. Why has it got skin? Like, holy crap, its eyes are huge. That's not a bear. And I took off, right? Like,
yeah, it's incredible how fast your brain actually processes information, during those kind of high stress type of moments,
Fear kicked in. Fear definitely kicked in, because I was just like, I didn't know what I was looking at. And I just was like, what's going on? We got to get out of here. Like, wow.
Right. Mm.
That's why I think people are crazy if they want to hunt them. Like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? You better drive around with a tank. Like, and it would probably still pick the thing up and throw it. Like,
it doesn't seem like anyone can actually go out and find one, does it? It seems like all these encounters are when people are doing their own thing, hiking or hunting or just having a campfire.
I got a crazy theory on that. I think that, and I think you guys have tipped on it too before, is that we have been dumbed down. We have lost so many natural abilities that they have the whole gamut. They have they can telepathically talk, probably. They can see us for long distances. They can obviously see at night. They can probably see our aura. They can probably see our aura coming through the woods, and they decide then if you're a good person or a bad person, and they're like,
that's interesting.
because there's people
energy, maybe.
like, well, my one friend is mostly blind, right?
Okay.
And he can see people's auras. Like, he said, he'll say, having a bad day, dude, or what? And I goes, man, you're a little dark today.
Oh.
I go, what do you mean? He goes, you're normally so orange. You're so orange and bright. And he goes, you having a bad day? I'm like, no, I'm fine. And then he'll see it change. Like, he'll see, okay, yeah, see, you're better now. You're more to a green, and then you go to an orange. You're happy now. You're orange. So I think that they could probably have some sort of the same ability. Because I've heard how people, like, I think that one video you guys did with that, where Mark, I think, he's the guy from the Florida cryptids or whatever.
Mark
Hunter or Mark
Barton.
Or they scared the crap out of him, right?
Yeah.
I think he totally hit on something there, is that they can see what people's intentions are and who, like that, for us, that Bigfoot looked at us and we were kids. So we were all probably pure of heart, we probably, because we're just innocent kids. We're just there to have fun, where they probably can see a bad person's aura coming through. Like, say someone has a malicious intent, maybe they step in to save the person that they're going to harm, or the thing that they're going to do. Maybe they have a malicious intent, and like I think that they can see that.
That's
Can
really
definitely give off
interesting.
bad energy, can't we? Negative energy if we want to.
We
How do-
give off energy. Right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, of course we do.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, you can walk into a room and feel an atmosphere.
Yeah.
You
Even
know,
just a bad. They say you feel a bad vibe off of someone, right?
yeah,
It's like
Right.
you just can feel it, and that, like how I said to you too, is like you can just try it. Go out and stand in a parking lot and just stare at someone. Just stare at them. I swear to you, within 10 seconds, they'll turn and look their head.
Mm.
And that's a primal instinct that we had before, that when we lived in the woods, and we had to be, our defense system had to be there so that we didn't get attacked by a bigger animal. So we needed to like look and be more aware. And we still
Hone
pick
those
up,
skills.
I think we still pick up on it, but it's our sixth senses and we just don't use them, you know?
Mm. If anyone's going to try that, just be careful who you're staring at.
Yeah. No, it's just it's just a homeschool scientific project, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do it amongst friends.
What do we
Look
feel
away.
about the smell, their ability to smell far? Do you think they can smell far? Do you think
Oh, of
you
course.
need
Just
but-
like deers can smell. Like when you're if you're a deer hunter, you don't bathe for the whole week. You know, you don't.
Right.
And you try and have like you make sure that's what the whole trail cam thing's for, is to see where their run is, where they go at certain times. You're going to be there. The wind's at this direction. I know that they're not going to smell me, right? So
Right.
that's why I think too, when I say that they don't travel alone, they work together as a team.
Mm.
And if they can telepathically talk at a distance, they don't have to go like I think these wood knocks, they're talking to each other, even if that's such a thing. I think if they're gonna be telepathic, who would use a piece of wood on a tree? You know, like
Yeah. It's a logical deduction.
why would you give your spot away? Why would you alert unless you intend to do that? Like you wanted to draw your attention over to that area so that another two can move in behind you and hide, and then
Like
they
a
make a tree
misdirect.
knock over here, and it's just misdirection. Yeah,
Yeah.
like these things have been elusive all this time, and it's not because they're stupid.
No.
That's a fact.
They know exactly what they're doing, don't they? And
They know before we know. You know, like
It's really interesting though, where you brought up that the ability to maybe read auras and stuff, because they, like I've said before, that they've just recently discovered that, caribou can see UV light, so there's different things, like we're still learning about the different spectrums of even sight, hearing, all of our senses, and they may have this upper echelon of their senses just on hypersensitivity,
what they say, like certain animals, like how like deers can see blue, really, really. I think it's blue and green, and especially at twilight and dusk, in that kind of dark before light thing, they can see. It's like it stands out like a flashlight. Now, how do they know that? Like, how can they say like a dog sees in 2D, or they see in black and white, or this and that? Like, we can tell each other what we see, or like I have a color. I don't see certain colors because I'm colorblind or whatever, because the person's saying that. We can't communicate the dogs like in animals. So how do we know? We can just assume how
well,
they see.
have they not studied the eyes? I mean, to work out how that happens.
Yeah,
why it happens.
like,
I think actually, but
I don't know much about it, but just it makes me
all the
think, well, how do
cones
they
in the
know that?
eyes and what the light detection and all of that, like there's so much science behind that
Of course, it's all in itself, right? Just each field, sight, speech, hearing,
I just talk about the smell because I always think, dogs have bigger noses, all those different huge amounts of scent thingies, whatever you call them. I can't remember the name of them.
Scent
We
glands.
Well,
don't
you know when
have that, do we? We don't have as many in ours. We can't. We
no,
can smell. As long as the wind's blowing, fair enough. But you wouldn't be able to smell something like dogs can. So
like you know that a dog can like smell when he smells your hand. He smells like right through your hand. He smells your blood, everything in. That's why they say some dogs can sense that you may have cancer, or
Right.
they can smell stuff through walls. And
They
like
can detect.
a really good example is my sister had a wolf dog, right? And I'd never met him before, ever in my life. And he's very aggressive. Like he literally loses his mind. You got to have a handful of biscuits in your hand to walk up to him and just throw them at him and then go for the house. I walked up and he looked like he smelled my hand and he just kind of looked at me because he could smell my sister and me, like our blood. And he was just like my best friend. And she said he's never done that to anybody before and ever. Because he smelled me, or he smelled my sister and me. And he trusts my sister, and he's like, oh, that's weird. And it's like he smelled another version of my sister. He's like, okay, you must be good. All right. More cookies? Like,
Where's the biscuits?
I love you.
Yeah, they can detect like when you're making cooking a dinner or something, you put a meal out, a dog can actually sense, like they can detect every single scent specifically in there. They can, somehow pick apart every single spice, and it's incredible.
Well, they say if you take your dog to a water hole, if he doesn't drink it, don't you drink it, because he isn't. He smells what's wrong with the water.
Right.
That's interesting. That is interesting.
If he puts his face down to it and sniffs it, and then sniffs it again, and just and goes away from it, don't you ever drink it. Especially like you're walking around the woods, people think, oh, that's a nice little clear stream. You don't know what's being dumped in it upstream.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And they can smell that, like, distinctly.
Because there are, trained dogs that can smell in water, can't they? They can smell.
Yeah. They can smell bombs within inside of coffee grounds, So you can imagine if a Sasquatch had all these super senses, and then people still have the ignorance to think that, why haven't we found one? It's like we're not even on the same playing field, so don't even try to sneak up on one. I think if you sneak up on one, it wanted you to see it. And it maybe it trusts you or something. Maybe it wants to see your reaction. I don't know.
And the thing with these things, I mean, you might be sneaking up on one, but you could have walked past two and not even known it.
Right.
By all accounts. I mean,
especially in the dark.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I say, like, the darkness part of him, like, it's like it just disappeared. You could see it, but you couldn't. It's like it created its own shadow. It was so black,
We hear about those that are really black.
Yeah.
Like blacker than black.
Yeah.
Like
what we saw was just a black silhouette, and yeah, like you said, your mind just sits there and tries to figure out what it is, and you go through everything under the sun.
Well, it's, especially if you can process thought quick, you're just like, you're going, am I losing my mind? What's that?
Right.
Run. Why isn't your feet moving? Run. Like, get alert, like stranger danger. Just like, it's, to me, it was like a whole barrage of emotions all within 5 to 6 seconds, like, just whoa, like.
So what would you do next time if it happened again, the same distance?
I would talk to it.
Right.
I'd say, I'm here as your friend. I mean no harm. Like, I don't want to hurt you guys. If you guys want me to leave, I will, but just please don't hurt me or anybody that I'm with. Like, I
When
think
you
that's
guys
why you
were
see people with guns. People with guns, I think they know that's a threat. And the people that are walking around just like having a good day, just checking out the scenery, you know, they just think they're just going to walk by and they're not even going to see me and just go about their day and no big deal. The ones with people with guns that are hunting or whatever stuff, they're worried about the boomstick, you know, or
right.
maybe one of them of their family had been killed or shot at or killed or whatever, and they'll communicate that down through their bloodline. It's just like however they can express, stay away from that person that has this thing in their hand, you know.
And they could probably smell the oil and the gunpowder and all the, you know.
Yeah, very possibly. And your intent, like your aura, you know, you're
Mhm.
there. You're like, I don't know, if people are hunting, most of them do hunt to harbor it, to bring it home, to feed their family, you know,
Right.
and stuff like that. If they don't see that intent, maybe they're going to step up for nature, you know.
Mm.
It's interesting.
Especially if they've seen you do it before.
Right.
If you're hunting the same grounds, they're there too. They're going to remember and see, like, say, shot at something and just went, I missed it. You know, you didn't take the time to go and look or whatever, you know.
They've definitely seen him, haven't they? They've watched people. It's fair to say
Well,
they
the
do
natives
watch and
talk
they do
about it.
study. Mm.
You know, it goes down to native history that
Mm-hmm.
and I've even heard that they said that they basically were fed up with man, and that's why they went back into the woods and they didn't want to cohabitate, you know.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. There's also lessons, you know, the sacred teachings of the seven grandfathers, and you know, and specifically the Sasquatch is the honesty lesson in that, you know, which again, when you go full circle with, you know, their ability to read people's intentions potentially, you know, that really is interesting.
Mm. And maybe that's what, you know, does save a lot of people, is that if you're a good person. I mean, I don't know any bad people that have been taken by him. This is the thing, we can't prove,
That's
you know,
true.
what is going on. But I think, you know, that is a big thing about people's intent and
Yeah.
them knowing exactly what you're about to do next or wanting to do next, and trying to, you
They're
know, I
just
feel
trying
like,
to protect themselves, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You know, it's a two-way street, isn't it? We often look at it just from our perspective,
Yeah.
but what are they thinking?